please.
Ms. Mwatse. She was on the platform, Chair. Mr. Mbuyani.
Chairperson, good morning. Good morning, colleagues. I'm present. Thank you very much.
Good morning.
Chair Prince Burns Namashe.
Molo Prince Burns Namashe.
I think his connectivity. Then Mr. Malamakia.
Morning, Chair. Morning, I'm present.
Good morning.
Morning, Chair.
Chair, Ms. Dr. Tswaku.
Good morning, Chair. Thank you very much. I'm here. Good morning, everyone. I'm here. Thank you.
Good morning.
Mr. Mulder.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, all are present.
Good morning.
Mr. Thring.
Good morning, Chair. Morning, colleagues.
Good morning.
Ms. Mutahum.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, everyone. I'm present.
Good morning.
Chair, those are the members currently on the platform. The other member may still try to connect, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Can we have the agenda for this meeting, please?
Good morning, Chair.
Good morning.
Mwatse.
Yes. So there we have the agenda. Can we have the apologies, please, Committee Secretary?
Chair, we have an apology from Mr. Cuthbert, Chair, who's on study leave at the moment. Chair, we also received an apology from the MEC of Mpumalanga for Department of Economic Development and Tourism, Ms. Shlope, who's not able to attend due to a prior commitment, but the delegation will be led by Mr. Sibeto on her behalf, Chair, from Mpumalanga. Thanks. Those are the two apologies that I have currently.
Thank you very much. Can we have a move and a seconder for the adoption of the agenda? Oh, and we see Honorable McPherson has also joined us. Good morning.
Move to accept, Chair. Honorable Wayne Thring.
Yes, Honorable Thring.
Move to accept the agenda, Chair.
Okay. We note your bad network in Durban. Honorable McPherson. Honorable Mbuyani.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. I second the adoption of the agenda. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So the first part of our agenda will deal with the follow-up engagement with the Mpumalanga Department of Economic Development and Tourism with respect to the committee's oversight visit to the Nkomazi Special Economic Zone. The purpose of the briefing is to determine whether any progress has been made in regard to the issues raised during the oversight visit with reference to the following: the status of the SEZ entity and the number of investors in the pipeline, the progress made in developing the SEZ since April 2022 when the committee visited, the cost and timeframes for developing the Nkomazi SEZ, the strategy to attract investors, and whether the demarcation of the traditional land as part of the SEZ in the SEZ area creates a challenge in attracting investment and securing investments. So can I hand over? I think you said it's Mr. Sibeto who's leading the delegation that will give us you will get 30 minutes to report, and then we'll take a further presentation from MEGA, the Mpumalanga Development Agency, Economic Development Agency, and further 30 minutes, and thereafter we will have a question and answer session before we move on then to the IDC and the NEF after a short comfort break. So can I just check Committee Secretary who we're handing to for the first part?
Chair, the delegation is led by Mr. Sibitsu. He's an acting HOD chair. He will be leading and he will introduce the team, Chair.
Thank you. Over to you, Mr. Sibitsu.
Good morning, Honorable Chairperson and members. I'm Mr. Sibitsu, Nathaniel Sibitsu. I'm the acting head of department of the Department of Economic Development and Tourism. I'm with my colleagues from the department, Mr. Andre van Meeker, will take us through the SEZ status report as per the terms of the reference that we have received. I also have got the acting CEO of the Nkomazi SEZ, and from Mega, the CEO of Mega is also part of the meeting, and also the Mr. Eric Tikazi from Mega. So I'll hand over to Mr. Andre van Meeker to take us through the presentation on the SEZ, and then after that, Mega will take us on the Ekandustria. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson, Honorable members. Thank you for this opportunity to take you through the presentation on the Nkomazi SEZ. I just want to know if everybody can see the presentation. Is it visible?
Yes, it's fully visible. You may proceed.
Thank you, Chairperson. Just to give a short background in terms of the SEZ, I will just to set the scene. Is what is the strategic intent of the Nkomazi SEZ? And I think it's got to do with addressing the triple challenges of poverty, unemployment, and inequality by creating much needed jobs in the Nkomazi area, which is a rural area within the province. And those jobs will especially be created in the agricultural sector. Also, another strategic intent of the SEZ is to improve exports from the province, especially to international markets, and then also then to contribute to the GDP of the province in a significant manner. Also associated with a big development like SEZ is also then the social impact, where people then can afford improved housing and education opportunities, since people will be able to earn an income through the activities within the SEZ. Just a short recap in terms of the establishment phases of the SEZ. We designated the SEZ into 3 phases. Firstly, the designation phase, which has been completed. Currently, we are in the interim phase, where we are addressing the issues that is hampering the issues that will impede on the development phase of the development. And then thirdly, it will move over to the development. We are thus addressing all the issues that needs to be satisfied for us to move into the development phase in the next financial year. Just to give members a quick overview of the site. It's situated adjacent to the town of Komatipoort, right next to the N4 road, the Maputo Development Corridor. Also, in terms of its strategic location, 5 kilometers from the border to Mozambique, and then also in close vicinity to Eswatini, and this is important, especially in terms of access to the port of Maputo, as well as then collaboration with our neighboring countries of Eswatini and Mozambique on especially agricultural and logistics activities. Just in terms of the implementation process and the progress achieved to date, this is on the governance in terms of the institutional arrangements of the SEZ and our readiness to then deliver, as well as then on the physical development issues pertaining to the Nkomazi SEZ. So in terms of the SEZ entity and governance, as already alluded, the designation was completed. There is a SEZ entity registered as a state-owned company, which is currently a standalone entity. Also, the MEC appointed a 6-member interim SEZ board, which consists currently of members from the 3 members of the DDIC, 1 member from our own department, a member from the Islandzeni, and then the Nkomazi municipality. There's also honorable members, PMU, Project Management Unit, currently consisting of 3 members, and there's also acting CEO and CFO that has been seconded to also speed up the delivery of the SEZ development. In terms of the institutional arrangements that has been put in place for the implementation of the program, there is a political oversight committee, there is a steering committee, and what we call the rapid intervention task team, which is also tasked then to especially address bottlenecks in the development process. Also, in terms of the governance issues, there is a 5-year strategic plan already in place for the entity as it moves forward. Then, in terms of the progress made in terms of the township establishment and land preparation issues for the SEZ, currently there is a 50-year land lease between the SEZ entity and the Nkomazi municipality is already in place. Also, the land use from agriculture to industrial has already been approved by the Department of Agriculture. There's also environmental authorization is in place, but I have to stress that we're currently busy addressing those conditions of establishment that we need to comply with in order then to move to the development phase. Also, then there's a site layout plan for the township establishment already approved by the municipality, and the final registration of that plan is currently at the Survey General. Also, preliminary designs of the internal infrastructure is already done, and then the commencement of detailed designs is currently underway. I think another important aspect is that also the Nkomazi SEZ was also then integrated into the spatial development framework of the IDP of the Nkomazi municipality, and there's also a precinct plan that was developed for the area of Komati Poort. So just in terms of the interim phase, and this is the key activities on the critical path that we need to address in order for us to enter into the full development phase for the next financial year. In terms of the corporate governance issue, currently, I think what's important is in terms of the SEZ entity registration. Although the entity is registered as a state-owned company, it's currently a stand-alone company, and that is creating problems in terms of the listing with National Treasury. I think National Treasury is not supporting the addition of more new Schedule 3D SEZs. So our recommendation in this regard is that the SEZ entity be registered as a subsidiary of Mega. Mega is already as the status of a 3D entity, and this will then significantly shorten the process to obtain then the listing in terms for the SEZ in terms of the listing of the company by National Treasury. Also, what we further recommend is that we move now through the MSC as the licensee to appoint then the full members of the boards moving forward. And then lastly, also in terms of the corporate governance model. We also then, in terms of the new national approach, that we adopt a quadruped governance model to drive the implementation of the SEZ strategic framework. So this model is then a model where DTIC, ourselves, the district municipality and local municipality will form into an agreement and then to pursue our development goals in terms of delivery of the SEZ. Just in terms of further, in terms of the governance issue, we've managed to approve the organizational structure of the SEZ. We also did the required job profiles and job grading for those 20 posts. So in terms of the structure of the SEZ, we are now pursuing the recruitment of those critical posts in terms of the SEZ structure. And I think this is a very important issue moving forward, so that we get permanent people in those positions, people that will be settled and that can drive the delivery of the SEZ moving forward, especially now with us moving into the development phase of the Nkomazi SEZ. Just in terms of the township establishment processes and the issues preventing us from moving to the full development phase, the issues that we're currently addressing. Honorable members, as you can see, currently the SEZ is developed in 2 phases. So currently our efforts are on the SEZ phase 1, which is 300 hectares of land. But we have available a second phase of approximately 373 hectares that can be added if the need arise for further investment. Of that 300 hectares currently designated, 152 hectares is available for physical development of the industrial park. Just in terms of then the issues that we need to resolve in order for us to establish site on the SEZ site. Firstly, it's the right-of-way servitude with Sasol. Sasol has unfortunately alienated that land to a private owner. We are in engagements with the new owner and Sasol, since they are also affected with the gas pumping station on the site, to get that matter resolved as we speak. Currently there is a meeting underway with them, so in order to resolve this issue. Also then, in terms of the water use license, our water use license is a long outstanding matter. This application has previously been lodged, but we got the advice that we need to do the necessary detailed engineering works, especially in terms of the wastewater treatment plant and the water treatment plant. We've appointed in the meantime those professional engineers that are doing those detailed designs on those bulk services requirements. That work is expected to be completed by December of this year, and we then relodge that application with the Department of Water and Sanitation. I think the big difference now is we also working very closely with the Nkomazi Water Basin Authority, who is also participating in the process to ensure that they are happy with our designs, since they are the relevant authority that will recommend our application to Department of Water and Sanitation. Just in terms of the detailed engineering designs, so the WULA application will deal with the bulk requirements. These engineering designs is then the internal designs of the water infrastructure, the stormwater drainage, sewer infrastructure, and access roads to the site. So all those specifications has been done, and we are currently in the process appointing professionals that will do this professional work for us in order for it to be ready when we move into the development phase. Also, then another condition stated by especially Sanral and Track was the erection of a physical barrier fence adjacent to the N4. In terms of this, I can report that the National PMU assisted us to rework the specification for this fence, and the procurement of a service provider is already underway. We've advertised this bid for a contractor. Currently, we are evaluating that bid, and we foresee that the erection of the fence will commence shortly in this quarter of the current financial year. So at least there will be some activity then on site when the contractor erects this barrier fence between the site and then the N4. Also then on the upgrading on the N4 interchange, currently, as the condition reads, the interchange needs to be developed prior to us taking or establishing site on the SEZ site. Together with the National PMU, we've concluded an additional detailed impact study. And what we're currently busy with is just engaging with Sanral and Track, requesting both parties to grant us the permission to the SEZ entity to access the site and proceed with the site establishment activities, while then also working together with those authorities on the creation of the proposed interchange. So what we're proposing is that it's not a condition of the development, but that the interchange will be developed in tandem. As the SEZ develops, the interchange will also be developed over time. And then we foresee once we get to stage 2 or stage 3 of the SEZ development, the interchange will then be required in terms of the traffic impact, and it will then be constructed. Just in terms, Honorable Chair, in terms of the issues I've just listed, we've developed the action plan in terms of the actions that needs to be taken in order for us to reach all the set milestones by March next year, to ensure that we can move then to the development phase. I won't go into detail of the action plan. Safe to say that it deals with the corporate governance issues, the township establishment issues, the water use license application issues, and then as well as direction of the barrier wall and the land preparation required for development, and then also the access road to the SEZ. So all those issues are broken down into tasks, and those tasks are then orientated in terms of time to ensure that we reach the milestones of March 23, which all these activities should be completed. Just in terms of the investment pipeline, there is 8 stages to the investment pipeline. Currently, there are 12 investors attracted in the areas of energy, logistics, and agro-processing. Especially in stages 1 and 2, we are dealing with various investors, and talks are ongoing. They do not form part of the 12 that is currently on the investment pipeline. So the 12 investors reported here are on then stages 3 to 8. Stages 1 and 2, we don't see them as investors yet, since they have not signed the required documentation. Quite a few investors, especially in terms of energy and agro-processing that we're dealing with, that are also then interested into investing into the SEZ. So in stage 3, we've got 2 companies that is busy with investor pre-screening. Also in terms of multi-stakeholder evaluation, there are 5 companies that we're dealing with. due diligence, 3 companies currently going through due diligence, and then the 2 investors that is the most advanced is Futumi Energy, and then the DP World investment, which we already currently assisting to locate into the SEZ. Just in terms of the potential investment profile, just over 48 billion at the moment, and then the creation of 43,000 jobs. Those jobs are not all within the SEZ, but includes the jobs that will be created in the value chain, especially the agricultural value chain. Just in terms of then the DP World project and the assistance we currently giving the DP World project, I think it's important to note that the DP World project is for a logistical hub within the Nkomazi SEZ, but that hub requires a railway siding. So in terms of the location of that railway siding, the DP World investment falls within the phase 2 of the SEZ development and not within the phase 1. We could not accommodate them in the phase 1 since the railway siding does not allow for a location at that site. Hence then the need then to quickly assist them with especially environmental legislation and again town planning legislation to get them settled. So what we're currently doing with the DP World investment is physically assisting them to finalize the land availability agreement between the SEZ entity and themselves. There's already environmental professional on site proceeding with that work, as well as the town planner will commence his work also during this month. And then also the negotiations is ongoing between Transnet and DP World about especially utilizing second-hand rails from Transnet for the railway siding, as that has a significant cost reduction, as well as then also Transnet erecting that railway siding, since they will be using second-hand tracks from the entity. Just to give members layout of the proposed DP World development. I think also what is important for members to note in terms of the DP World in development is that it will also unlock other investors, since it will be creating that logistical hub or intermodal point within the SEZ. This is also very important to ease the congestion at the border post, since it will create that intermodal point or hub where goods can move from road to rail and rail to road. And I think this is very important also to ease the congestion at the border post. Also, just in terms of risk and mitigation measures, I think what is very important, especially in terms of governance, is a key risk is that that SEZ entity is currently not staffed by full-time employees, and that's why we want to ensure that in terms of our mitigation on that risk is the appointment of the full-time board and to have a functional SEZ structure in place, especially before the development phase of the development commence. Also, bulk infrastructure, ensure that our bulk infrastructure plan is according to tenants' needs. So when we develop bulk infrastructure, it is not debt capital in the ground, but it's developed as investors locate in the site. That bulk infrastructure should then be available. Also, another important aspect for us is our ability to support SMMEs in the SEZ. If members remember well, one of our designation criteria by the Minister of DTIC was that we must ensure that especially black farmers and SMMEs participate in the value chain of the SEZ. So in terms of that, we have to develop a well-resourced and integrated support plan for our SMEs and our smallholder farmers. And in this regard, we're also working very closely with our sister department of agriculture, rural development, and land reform in terms of creating a comprehensive support plan for our smallholder farmers. Also, then once the SEZ gains momentum and will be developed, we need the area is already constrained in terms of irrigation water, so we'll need to have a look at the construction of the Mountain View Dam in order to expand the irrigation infrastructure, especially in terms of the areas of Madalaan and Komati Poort, as well as then the further outlying rural areas, and to intensify those irrigation systems to address the production that is required to support the SEZ. Also, other key areas that we're picking up is in terms of our trade policies versus our neighboring countries of Eswatini and Mozambique. Sometimes hampers the free flow of agricultural produce across the borders, and we are again engaging DTIC and the National Department of Agriculture and Rural Development also to review and align these existing trade policies in terms of the movement of goods. Sometimes it's possible for agriculture commodities to leave the country, but if there's a problem at Maputo Harbour, those goods are not always possible for those goods to come back into the country. So that's some of the issues we need addressing in order to also address the risk to our farmers. Also, then yes.
Sorry to interrupt. I see you have 8 slides left, but there's only 4 minutes left on your presentation. Please, if you can, then just summarize each slide.
No, I will quickly wrap up. Thank you, Chairperson. This is just in terms of our stakeholder engagements, in terms of all the clusters. I won't go into detail, just to say that the SEZ success is hinged on the stakeholders, especially our local and district municipalities, as well as our tribal authorities led by our traditional leaders are very important stakeholders, as well as the national and provincial departments. I won't go into the priorities of the SEZ entity for this year. Safe to say it's got to do with, as I already alluded, strengthening the governance issue of the SEZ, ensuring the investment pipeline is well structured and gaining momentum in terms of the investment, and then also ensure that the SEZ marketing plan and agricultural supply chains of the SEZ is established and intensified. Also then working with other programs of government to strengthen those programs. Just in terms of budget, currently our budget is 64 million for the current financial year, divided into goods and services of 23 million, used mainly for professional services, the engineering reports, also transfers of 12 million. That's what to do with the governance and the appointment of the new members in terms of the SEZ entity, as well as the functioning of the PMU, and then capital payments, the money required then for the fencing and etc. You'll see that the info interchange we've marked in red. As I said, we're trying to move that one to phase 3 away from the current requirements of infrastructure. Thank you, Chairperson. It is this recommended that the Honourable Portfolio Committee note the progress report on the Nkomazi SEZ. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. for that presentation. We will now move to a follow-up engagement with the Mpumalanga Economic Development Agency with respect to the committee's oversight visit to the Ekandustria Industrial Park. The purpose of the briefing is to determine whether any progress has been made in regard to the issues raised during the oversight visit, with reference particularly to the following: the status of the management and human resource capacity at Ekandustria, and where the financial resources to maintain the park has been allocated, the status of Mega's implementation of its collection policies, the status of bulk electricity account with the city of Tshwane, including related legal matters, as well as the status regarding the maintenance of this infrastructure, the status of the operations of the landfill site and whether the license has been obtained or planned to do this. And then lastly, the status of Mega's proposed strategy to develop public-private partnerships to attract financial resources and technical know-how to revitalize and modernize the industrial park. Can I then just check committee secretary who's doing the presentation on Ekandustria?
Chair, the Mega is led by Mr. Mashlang, the CEO, who will probably indicate who will be leading, who will be doing the presentation, Chair.
Thank you very much. Over to you.
Good morning, Honorable Chair, and good morning, Honorable members and colleagues. Honorable Chair, I think I will proceed with the presentation with Mr. Nyatigazi doing our flighting that side. Mr. Nyatigazi, if you can do the sharing.
I will give Mr. Nyatigazi the rights. Just give me a second.
All right, thank you. Okay.
Okay, you can proceed. Just put your presentation in slide mode, please. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Honorable Chair. I think, Honorable Chair, we were presenting the state of the facility as per the mandate that was given to ourselves by the committee. Chair, this is the background which we have shared with the committee on slide 1 previously. So we can now go to the slide that deals with the progress on the issues that have been identified. Chair, we are indicating that with regard to management and human resource capacity at the Ekandustria, the office is now managed by a senior manager who's supported by the Ekandustria regional manager. And notwithstanding the above, it is still apparent that the Ekandustria office requires additional resources or staff qualified and experienced in the following fields: project management, quantity surveying and cost estimation, facilities management and credit management and control, as well as tenant license. So, Chair, we are indicating that due to the heavy undercapitalization of Mega, the institution has not been able to fund the filling of the vacant positions as stated above. So that, Chair, is still a work in progress. Depending on how far we go with our collection, we will still be unable for this financial year to fill those posts. With regard to the status of Mega's implementation of its collection policies, Mega currently has a credit control unit which is responsible for debt collection. The credit control unit, with the assistance of the legal division, issues letters of demand, the final letters of demand and disconnection letters to tenants with outstanding accounts. So tenants will either then enter into payment plans or settlement arrangements with Mega, or their electricity is then disconnected. So once the credit control unit has exhausted all collection methods, the tenant is handed over to the legal section, who either hands them over to external debt collectors or to the panel of legal attorneys to take the necessary legal steps, including evictions and more. And get to the next slide. With regard to the status of the bulk electricity account with the City of Tshwane, we're indicating, Chair, that the City of Tshwane debt currently stands at 180 million and is made up of property rates and water portion amounting to 43 million and electricity charges of 137 million. The factors that have led to this huge debt are non-payment by tenants and distribution losses caused by, among other things, faulty water and electricity meters, the leakages arising from the old infrastructure, and the possible theft of services due to illegal services connections. However, the Mega Board has since resolved to transfer the management of municipal services and related infrastructure at Ekandustria to the City of Tshwane. In order to give effect to the Mega's board resolution, and Mega consulted the City of Tshwane senior management regarding the valuation of the infrastructure services at Ekandustria, and the City of Tshwane duly requested relevant infrastructure documentation during June 2022, and the City of Tshwane process to the infrastructure commenced. The report has, however, not yet been shared with Mega. The legal action from the City of Tshwane is currently on hold, pending the finalization of this process. Once the takeover has been effected, the Mega debt to the City of Tshwane will cease to grow and shall be ring-fenced, opening the way for negotiations around an arrangement to pay off the debt. So we can to the next slide. Chair, with regard to the status of the operations of the landfill site and whether the license has been obtained or plans to do this, we are responding that the landfill site at Ekandustria is currently non-operational. It was shut down due to non-compliance with applicable health and safety standards as prescribed by the National Department of Water and Sanitation. The agency has finalized the bid specification for the Ekandustria landfill site, but is currently unable to appoint a service provider due to existing financial constraints. The Ekandustria landfill site is also earmarked for funding, development and management as part of the ongoing public-private partnership mooted in the park's revitalization plan. So a strategic development partner has already been appointed by Mega to this effect. Chair, with regard to the status of Mega's proposed strategy to develop the PPP to attract financial resources and technical know-how to revitalize and modernize the industrial park, we are indicating, Chair, that Mega has adopted an approach of using the SDPs for various projects, including the Ekandustria. A strategic development partner has also been appointed for Ekandustria, that is Q1 of 2022-2023, to immediately address identified property management gaps and undertake the necessary planning required to secure funding for the upgrading of infrastructure and refurbishment of existing factories, and to rebrand and expand the park. So Mega and the DED are in discussions with the Gauteng provincial government and the City of Tshwane pertaining partnering in the redevelopment of Ekandustria. So what follows, Chair, is a detailed discussion of the park's revitalization strategy. We can get to the next slide. Chair, we start with the challenges. We're saying the key challenge is lack of expertise and funds, theft and vandalism, and non-payment. So the financial losses and inability to cover current operating costs due to deficiencies in the current operating model, and the inability of the agency to turn the park around to profitability without the injection of additional financial resources and securing the required property management capability. We're also indicating, as part of the challenges, that there's an aged utility infrastructure in industrial buildings. This is a building of around 1980. And then there's a lack of upgrading and refurbishment funds, and that there's vandalism of electricity distribution infrastructure, which together with load shedding and the ever-present threat of disconnection by the City of Tshwane are causes for major uncertainty and red flags to existing and potential investors to the park. So there's also an inability to expand and market the park to take advantage of the emerging potential and opportunities. The next slide. These are the intervention measures that we were putting in place to address precisely the previous slide. She was saying that a strategic development partner has been appointed to immediately address identified property and facilities management gaps, undertake the necessary planning required to secure private funding for the upgrading of the infrastructure, the refurbishment of existing factories, the rebranding parking. The rebranding of the park. A contractor has also been appointed to install new electricity meters that will assist in arresting identified electricity distribution losses. And a senior manager, properties and facilities, is now stationed at the park. And the discussions with the Gauteng provincial government are underway pertaining possible partnership, the revitalization and expansion of the park. And Mega is also engaging the city of Tshwane on the possible takeover of the utility infrastructure as reflected above, and Mega committing to service the current debt and ensure consistent monthly payments of not less than 5 million rand to arrest the further debt escalation on the current account. There's also the Dtic funding applications will follow in the next. Well, Chair, we are indicating here on the objective that the property presents an opportunity for the private sector to partner with Mega, and that Mega believes that the asset can be turned around into a profit-making industrial park, and that the revitalization of the park will contribute to the growth of both Mpumalanga and Gauteng provinces, and also return the park to its past. But also Ekandustria, we're noting, is surrounded by vast arable land within short distances to urban markets and export opportunities. Chair, with regard to the applications to DTIC, we've applied for a 50 million cash injection for the park. This will include also the other parks like Siabuswa and Kapokweni. We can get to the next slide. Chair, here, these are still the opportunities. I'll not bother you with the details there, Chair, but safe to say that we're intending to integrate the N4, the Maputo Corridor, Bronco Strait, Fontaine Freight Hub as part of the strategic way forward. We can get to the next slide. And Chair, this is what we think the park should be in the ultimate end. It should be an agri-eco park with at least 16 pillars, one being the trade zone, the rail cargo terminal, the passenger terminal, the agricultural processing zone, the truck staging facility, a creche, a precinct healthcare center, the entrepreneur hub, and then we have a commercial district, the greenhouse tunnels, then the landfill site, the solar farm power plant, the water treatment plant, the waste treatment facility, truck overnight stay, and a taxi rank. We can get to the next slide. That is a schematic presentation of how it should look like in the ultimate end. We can get to the next slide. Chair, we're showing here institutions that have an appetite on the funding. This includes the IDA, the African Bank, the DBSA, and next slide. It's still the potential investors, people who can assist with funding. Africa Finance Corporation, the Old Mutual, the Network, and the Meridian Meridian. We can get to the next slide. So this is then the action plan as to how we intend to move forward. We're saying the KPA there, number one, is the park ownership and operation model. We're indicating, Chair, that it is envisaged that the special purpose vehicle will be formed to operate the park on a concession basis, and that Mega will have equity in the SPV together with other investors who are yet to be onboarded, and that we need the selling of equities is to also address the issue of the debt of City of Tshwane. We're hoping, Chair, that as soon as we establish an SPV, the discussions with the City of Tshwane on our side will be to wipe off the debt so that you don't have an SPV that is debt-ridden. And Mega will enter into a long-term lease with the SPV or concessionaire for operation of the industrial park. So the special purpose vehicle is therefore to source the required capital to operate, refurbish and develop the park at fullest. We're hoping to run with this process as we have started this month. On KPA number 2 is the improvement of the park management as a short-term intervention. So here we require to conclude a property and facilities management agreement with the strategic development partner for improving performance of the park in the short term. By short term, we're referring to 3 years. One, Chair, is to improve the occupancy to 75%. And I must indicate, Chair, that since the beginning of this year, we have attracted 8 more tenants. So in between the visit of the portfolio committee then and now, but the calendar year, we have attracted about 8 more tenants. Therefore, we have shifted from 52% to about 56 or 58% occupancy rate. So it is possible, Chair, that we'll reach the 75% sooner than we have anticipated. We also need, Chair, that we must improve the collection rate to 95% and also start the repayment of debt. We need to secure funds to upgrade, refurbish and maintain existing infrastructure and buildings, and then market and establishment of the new investors in the park and deal with theft and vandalism of electrical infrastructure. Then we need to enter into an arrangement with the city of Tshwane on the repayment of the debt. We can get to the next slide. In the next slide, Chair, we're still going on with the KPA. So we are saying that the KPA number 3 will be project development stage. And this is a preparatory stage. We're doing the information gathering and inception that has been done, Chair. The valuation of the asset is still ongoing and it has to be concluded by this month. We're also indicating, Chair, the KPA number 4 is the establishment of the special purpose vehicle to develop and manage the park. We need to obtain the board approval and also inform Treasury as per the PFMA requirements, and then secure exemption from provincial Treasury from PPP processes. That is ongoing, Chair, but we're intending to deal with that, finalize it by November. Those are other areas, Chair. The development of memorandum of incorporation. We're hoping that it will be done with on the last quarter of this financial year, and then the registration of the SPV by the end of the financial year. We should be up and running, and then we set up the corporate governance structures and onboarding of other investors, including the conclusion of all relevant agreements. That should happen in November the following year. Then we do the operationalization of the SPV as well. That should be happen in November next year. We can get to the next slide. Chair, we're therefore recommending that the portfolio committee notes the report and the progress made in moving towards improving and revitalizing the Ekandustria Industrial Park. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you very much for that presentation. With time to spare, it's now the opportunity of members of the portfolio committee to discuss the 2 presentations that we've received so far. So I'll take hands for discussion on the SEZ and the industrial park. Okay, I see Honorable Thring. While we're waiting for others to raise their hands, I think you can proceed, Honorable Thring.
Thank you, Chair. Firstly, on the Nkomazi presentation, just some questions. I'm just gonna go straight to my questions. One, when we first met, there were some challenges apparently with the traditional leaders. So the first question is, have those challenges with the traditional leaders been resolved? What is the planned percentage occupation for agro processing at the SUZ? Noting that that your agro processing sectors are more labor intensive and as a result, help to reduce the unemployment burden that we currently have. And then just with regards to the servitude with Sasol that appears to be the problem, what type of servitude? I think I heard you say that it may be related to gas, but is that the case? And then how long will it take to resolve that particular issue? Is there a time frame? You said you are engaging with talks with Sasol, but what is the time frame to actually resolve that? And are you confident that servitude issue will be resolved? You mentioned that a traffic impact assessment was done, and that's complete. But I'm not sure if I heard an EIA was done. It's the environmental impact assessment. So was an EIA done as well? That this SEZ will be good to go at the projected date, which I think you said was first quarter of the next financial year. So how certain are you that it will to go at this particular date, in the light of the risk factors that you mentioned, particularly the bulk infrastructure risk factors and water and so on? So, Chair, that's with regards to Nkomazi, and then with the Ekandustria SEZ, clearly there's a challenge with regards to the additional human resources and posts that need to be filled, because the inability to fill these particular posts because of financial constraints will affect, in my opinion, Chair, good governance. And I think that unless critical posts are actually filled, we're going to continue to see the challenges at Ekandustria being perpetuated. I think that the landfill site on the at Ekandustria not meeting health standards, and then financial constraints also with regards to meeting and mitigating the challenges of the landfill site. I think it's a concern. Because clearly with their landfill sites, there are also gases that emanate from that particular landfill site. And one should not be having, unless there has been there's been clearances and clearance certificates given by the health department, but one should not be building on a landfill site. It clearly is a health hazard. I'm not sure whether throwing finances into a system that is weak is going to solve the challenges. And so unless we resolve the weaknesses, so what I'm hearing, if we have the finances, then that can be, but we have to look at the areas of weakness, resolve those particular areas, strengthen those particular areas, and then I think the rest will follow. And so my final question here is, what happens if the city of Tshwane, if that particular deal falls through? Do you have a plan B? And hopefully, in terms of the your long-term plan, I see that the creche is included in that long-term plan. Hopefully, that creche is for the tenants, because I think that would be a good idea if it's for the tenants. But if it's for the general public, that may create some challenges. But hopefully, that creche is for the tenants of the SEZ. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Mbuyani. You are still muted, Honorable Mbuyani. Unmute yourself. Okay, you can proceed. We can hear you now. No, but now you muted again. There we go.
Yeah, no, thank you very much, Chair, for the opportunity. Let me first welcome both the presentation from the SEZ and also the Ekandustria. Chair, I just want to appreciate the improvement since we went there in April. and also have some few clarity seeking questions. I don't know, in terms of the credit control unit, which is responsible for debt collection, how far is there any improvement in terms of debt collection or payment or revenue collection in the process? Then also the transferring of the municipal management services to Tshwane. How is it, and what is it that we have to do? Because seemingly our rural funds must go to the Tshwane, which is Gauteng. I don't know what is an arrangement. Can we get the DTIC or anyone that can be able to assist us in this regard? And also the DTIC funding. Similarly, in our report, we are getting that there's revitalization funds that are allocated to industrial parks. But on this one, we don't get anything. What is happening? Is there any funding that goes to Ekandustria or to the mega? In the issue of the SEZ chair, for me, it's just the trade policy matters. I just want to find out from the department whether the DTIC is here to clarify to us in terms of what are the policy impediment, both the Mozambique and Swaziland, around the issues that they are raising here. The other one, Chair, is the regional economic integration. Do they have a plan around that, or what is it that they want us to do in terms of assisting them moving forward with this economic integration? Because there's African Continental Free Trade Agreement, there's also the Sakua or something. So I just want to check that, do they have that in mind to say it's not only the South African or the Mpumalanga, but it can also try to stabilize economic development around the region. Let me pause there for now, Chair, and also like to raise the issue maybe to the Department of Economic Development in Mpumalanga, that this issue of acting like everyone is acting, it won't assist the process moving forward. I think they must facilitate and fast track the process of appointing permanent board members and permanent CEO and permanent CFO on that regard. Thank you very much, Chair, for the opportunity.
Thank you. I'm just checking, did we lose Honorable Burns Nkomazi? Oh, you are there. Honorable Burns Nkomazi.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Although there's a challenge of connectivity.
I think you must switch off your video.
I think as all right, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson, Honorable members. And let me also join in welcoming the two presentations. And really acknowledge, Chair, the fact that SEZs and industrial parks are very important strategic instruments in stimulating economic growth as well as creating opportunities for massive job creation. So having this kind of instruments, especially around rural provinces, is very key, because for quite some time, which was part of the apartheid and colonial spatial development, the economic concentration has always been around Johannesburg, Durban, Cape Town, you know, and those provinces currently that are in the rural periphery or hinterland, they have not been so fortunate to be considered as areas of economic opportunity. So these kind of interventions are more than welcome, and I can see that through the presentation, there's a significant improvement from what we have seen from the oversight period. Perhaps it will be helpful, Chair, to ask a very pointed question that, for instance, with all the niceties in terms of the presentations, if we were to visit the area tomorrow, what is it that we will find on the ground which would in a way attest to what has been presented? You know, because it's always important to have what I may call a chi-square analysis, where you compare what you observe against what you expect. So it will be important to have that sense of seeing that which on the ground will really show the commitment. Secondly, there's a great role to be played by investment in the process. We have had a very important function which was officiated by the president, where a number of captains of industry made huge commitments. Now, to what extent are those commitments translated into practical investment in these SEZs and industrial parks? And is there any deliberate effort at the level of the municipality, the respective or relevant municipalities, to begin on their own volition, aggressively embarking on a program to attract investment? And fortunately, that, of course, will now be predicated on the district development model. Now, one would want to see that kind of coordination, because I will tell you, for instance, some of these provinces have got bilateral arrangements and or agreements that have been signed. Now, to what extent are those bilateral agreements exploited to the benefit of creating or empowering local businesses, so that also when it comes to the output, South Africa must produce what it consumes, or at least consume what it can produce. In that sense, it means there should be greater investment on localization. There should be greater investment on the value chains, so that we are now talking about finished products. We don't find ourselves in situations where we export raw material. Because when we export raw material, it means we are also exporting a number of jobs that would be otherwise created to where those raw materials will be processed. And Mpumalanga is one of the industrial areas that are quite key in the mining sector. It would be important to understand whether in those SEZs and industrial parks, there are value adding operations, so as to ensure that that which we produce in South Africa, when it gets to the shores for export, it is exported as a finished product. So lastly, Chair, these SEZs and industrial parks, they contribute towards the decongestion of urban areas. The provinces, for instance, of Gauteng and KwaZulu-Natal, more specifically the areas around Johannesburg, Pretoria, Tshwane, and eThekwini, you'll find that a significant number of our people from these rural provinces, they are infesting those spaces precisely because there are no economic opportunities. And in a way, the knock-on effect of that kind of, or domino effect, is such that when it comes to budget allocation, the formula that is used, it favors those provinces with bigger numbers. And as a result, you'll find that provinces like Mpumalanga, Limpopo, Eastern Cape, they get a limited amount of money, which is further exacerbated by under expenditure. So I would want to see the kind of system that also targets the areas of ensuring that we decongest, create opportunities for our people to remain in these provinces where everything that you would have looked out for in urban areas, you would otherwise find at home. So do we have that kind of capability, or in terms of our own planning, do we envisage that kind of long-term investment in that area? Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Madam Chair.
Thank you, Chair.
Yes, thank you.
No, you pronounced it very well, Malemak. Thank you, Chair. Good morning, colleagues. Let me be frank to say the two presentations after we visited the site makes one to relax and be happy. They seem to talk of more improvement from all what we have observed that site. And if that's the case, you really need to be applauded for you have taken our advices and ensure that you do the right things. I want to start by saying how I wish the department is here so that it can be able to take this as advice to approach other departments, especially where we have departments that have to assist the commencement of the SEZ, the likes of the Department of Land Affairs. If we are to get permits and everything in a form of township proclamation so that we don't have delay. If indeed we are to deal with the terrible challenges, that is poverty, unemployment, and inequality. The Department of Water, if we are to deal with the licensing, as the report seeks to say, they are in that process. The issue is to how fast can we fast track that so that at the end of the day, we just want to see this thing commencing on our reports. The Department of Roads, especially when we are to cross that freeway, that must also include the private partners, those that are owning the land, so that we really don't find ourselves being of more rhetoric than of action on the ground. As Comrade have already alluded that the importance of this SEZ is not necessarily about to push the program, it's also to change the life and the living condition of our masses. Those who are saying it's high time that we must stop going to the likes of KZN, Gauteng, instead can be created where we are residing. That has got the potential of cutting cost, that include the traveling cost. It has got a potential of strengthening our family, meaning that I'll work where I reside. Gone are those days where some people were forced to go as far as KZN to look for work and work there and take long to come back home. So I'm saying there's a need for fast tracking of the following, rather to find that we have got different government system in one government. If we have got one system in one government system, there's a need for these departments to be on board as convened by the said steering committee, which we are told it has been there, which we also want to applaud you for that. Our conclusion will be that include the indunas and the chiefs through their reps, so that at the end of the day, everybody's own up on this project with intention of seeing it commencing. Comrade Mboyani, Honorable Mboyani, through your chair, you covered me, especially when you showed very worry about the actings, the issue of the CEO and the interim board. It is not right. It does not stabilize the institute. Where there's a permanent board or CEO, you will realize stability, even the accountability will be very adequate. I'm very impressed with the objective of the CEO, of ZEC. We just want to see it happening. Comrade, the industrial park of Nkangala, the presentation is very good. How we wish they deal with the issue of the Gauteng, in particular Tshwane electric debt, so that at the end of the day, whatever funds that we are saying they be going there through the request by Comrade Benz, that so huge chunk of the budget must also be driven there. It must not be spent to be paying the debts. It must spend to develop the area. That also must ensure that when we develop the area, we are able to attract the youth, we are able to attract women, we are also able to attract women, people with disabilities. So these are the function of this industrial park, so that at the end of the day, covering nearly the entire society for the good. Thank you very much, Comrade Chair.
Thank you, Dr. Tswaku.
No, thank you very much, Chair. Just have a couple of questions and comments that I really need to do. I think that maybe, Chair, you've seen me that by now. Maybe you will check now. Maybe when departments, or you can say entities, they come and present the progress or whatever you can call it. I find it to be very extremely, I get depressed actually. and to a point where if there was a way that I could maybe just get presentations and maybe I don't attend or something, because we're listening to the same thing every now and then. I tell you now, in next quarters, we're going to get same presentations. I tell you, there's nothing that never gets that ever gets done. I mean, I want to be brutally honest. You know, this SEZ, when I even joined this meeting, making them, we've got a challenge with electricity, we've got a challenge with license. I mean, they come and tell us these challenges here. I mean, sometimes it says, why do you come and tell us, and you should go and sort it out? Well, why don't you do it? You should tell us that we need money. We need more money to do A, B, C, and D. Why can't they finish up with all these hassles and everything like that? Is there some kind? Sometimes, Chair, I'm just do we have AA leadership? And I had this thought in my head that maybe, I don't know, maybe not now, in the future, when people get into the projects of this nature, which are very important in job creation, they must not get paid up until the project is at least maybe 90%, 8%, 90% finished, because we give money to people who are still conceptualizing and all of that. They're happy because when they're getting paid, and forgetting that their main job is to do a job creation on the ground. People on the ground in the townships, in Nkomazi per se, like that place is still rural. It's very bad there. I've been there, deployed there at some point. And we're getting presentations of this nature and we talk a lot. And it's, for me, Chair, I tell you right now, it's very depressing every time we have to listen to these comrades coming here and telling us that, okay, yeah, well, maybe the other one was, other presentation had a bit of an action planning, but the other Nkomazi just a lament and after lament and after lament and all of that. Well, I don't know, but it's really, so the thing I hate about this presentation is that they make that the blacks are incompetent. We can't get things done, and they're creating a very bad name on us. That, I mean, you cannot manage. We can't get some. We need to get something right. Like, to actually, these SEZs and all these projects have to create jobs, and it looks as if there is no such an agency or sort of a war room somewhere where you can find that, these things are actually working. It's a depressing thing. I'd rather maybe listen to other, maybe what is generals and all the other presentation. But these ones, they come here and said, how far are we with them? They can't say we're done with that project. So many people have been employed. I will comment and say, congratulations. But we're listening to lament and after lament. For me, it's not actually assisting at all. They can even write to us and say that we're having a problem 1, 2, 3, and 4 electricity. Then we can call departments and see if we can help them. But in this forum and lament about this other very small stuff is not nice. I wanted to check the other, the presenter there, I think on the Nkomazi, the presentation. That comrade, they must have a proper action plan. When are they going to finish? Daytime and action by who? At least the other presentation had that. When are they going to finish or envisage to finish? Because at the end, the project must have a start and an end, not a never ending. They are going to go to another parliament or 6 or 7 parliament. They're going to still crying about Nkomazi this. It's very irritating, Chair. I wanted to check now is that with these projects now, can they be honest and tell us how many jobs have they created with the amount of money that they've got already? How many jobs? And I bet it's going to be 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or something like that. And how much with much money are we getting a value for money now? Because we are pumping money into these things here, and they never, as Pagan, they never stand up. Comrades, they come into these committees here and tell us all this nice thing and lie about it. It's an irritating thing, Chair. But anyway, I'll tell you like why, and maybe when we invite the other entities like IDCs and NEFs and all of that. You've got people here coming into this committee telling us all these nice things that when you go to the ground, it's something totally different. So We want to check now, current on this one, how many jobs are created with the progress that they've actually made so far. And then, yeah, they must give us that kind of a thing, is their action plan in terms of when are they going to finish, if they will ever finish. Now, I want to touch on another thing. I know my colleague, Honorable Ben Snamashi, they love this private and partnership thing. It's fine, comrades. It can work maybe, but the problem is that when the private companies are coming to the public sector to invest, you need to remember that private, they want to make profits. It's not their duty. They don't really people that are there really to say, we want, we have a social intervention, socio-economic intervention we want to do. Theirs is to make a profit, and they will do everything to squeeze, frustrate, the government in terms of ensuring that people lives become better, they get jobs and all of that. That's not the focus of the private sector. They want to make a deal, make money, frustrate our people, and then from there they make money, and then they say they will dump us. So the government must be involved. They must pump money. IDC, they must stop acting like, when there are some loan sharks and give like banks and NEFs and all of that. We need to give these projects money and pumping money there and be able to create jobs, because the main thing is, I think, is that the government must be at the center of development. That's why you are going to take time. That comrade from Nkomazi and this SEZ, they are going to take a lot of time, because private sector is looking at the market prices, checking what is happening. Am I going to make profit here? What are the risks and all of that? And you're going to be idling. There are many SEZs everywhere in the country. Look at that one there. What's that thing? What's that? A kucha. There, it's limping, it's coming limbs and bounds. And, it's actually not flourishing that way. We can't say this is an SEZ where it's booming and everything is working. Government must be at the center of development. Yeah, fine. Government is like a family. Yeah, well, people in Ekaya, my mother, my father, they must pump money. They must make me better. They must take me to school. They must support me to take to school so that I'm able to, to grow, and be capable and all of that. The government is like our parent. I'm not asking for a neighbor outside to, hey, can you please help my son, who wants to go and study and all of that. Of course, what is this in for me if your son goes back there and study? So our government, which is our parent, must be at the center of development. Once the government is able to be at the center of development, I'm not saying that, look, that you can have private there and there, but it must not be a forecast, 100% that we're waiting for private and to come and invest. Those comrades there were there on the project. They must be able to say, okay, how can we do this, and government can fund this so that we can create jobs. You need to create jobs because the young people are not working out there in the township. And it looks as if there is no agents. That's what I'm getting very agitated and also very sad, is that we are sitting and doing boardroom politics and getting all these monies and all of that. But the people in the townships and everywhere, they are looking for jobs. It's even worse after COVID. And looks as if we're still moving in limbs and bounds. So we need to take our work very serious and complete these projects. And make, even if you can even have a war room or some sort, maybe treat it in a way that COVID was being treated every time there's a reporting session. What are the issues now? How can you do like that? There is a lot of hunger that is actually there. So, Chair, that is my contribution for now. I wish that sometimes I don't get into these progress reports because they are depressing, highly depressing. Thank you very much, my Chair.
Thank you very much. Yes, I see the department is part of this platform. I see Tommy Claassen. I think he works with the SEZs in the department. He is on the platform. As I hand over to Mr. Sibitso for responses, you and your team, Mr. Sibitso.
Thank you, Chairperson. We appreciate the inputs that will incorporate in our work going forward. But in terms of the specific questions, I'll ask the colleagues to come in. I'll hand over to the CEO to respond to specific issues pertaining to Ekandustria and trade investment, and Mr. Andre van Niekerk on the SEZ. Thank you, Chairperson.
Yeah, okay.
No, thank you. Thank you very much, Chairperson. Chair, with regard to the comments by Honorable Tring on the filling of critical posts, we also share that view, Chair. In essence, we're hoping that each division within NEGA should be able to have at least 5 more professionals. It's something that we are working upon, but as we're saying, we need more money, Chair. Now, Honorable Tring also indicates as to does it help to put money in weak areas. Chair, we are glad to report as the agency that for the first time in 10 years, we were unqualified by the AG. So the areas of weaknesses are being attended to. We're hoping to reduce the matters of emphasis. Of course, we are unqualified with matters of emphasis. We really wish to reduce them, those matters of emphasis, to be as less as possible. Chair, with regard to what will happen if the deal with City of Tshwane falls flat, we are currently proceeding as though that deal will not even succeed. So our plan with the SDPs and SPVs includes the City of Tshwane for now as part of the planning, but we are alive to the reality that it may not succeed. However, we note the attitude of the City of Tshwane is now very cordial and cooperative, Chair. It does give us some hope that the deal will be successful. Yes, Chair, the crash is for the tenants. Now, Honorable Nkomazi asked what exactly will have happen if tomorrow the committee were to visit Ekandustria. I know also the is spoken to. Of course, there are fewer things that we have done, Chair. We, as we indicated, that we have attracted a few more tenants. So the is now busier a little bit than it was in the past. But there's also serious maintenance in terms of cleaning, etc. And we think that by the end of the financial year would also have gone further than just a clean and a well-guided. There were a lot of bombings of our substations there. We have fixed them. So there's some movement, Chair. So there was a question by Honorable Chaku, Chair, if I'm pronouncing it well, let me just make sure so that yes, it's Honorable Chaku, as to how many jobs have been created. Chair, with regard to Ekandustria, by end of last year, we had 1,230 jobs. Between January and now, we have created more than 200 more jobs with the new tenants. So that's the little contribution we're doing in terms of us ascertaining that we're putting a dent to poverty, unemployment, and inequality. And of course, Chair, we do need more money. I think those are the comments, Chair, I can make. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I think you said Mr. Van Niekerk, who's the next person to speak?
Thank you, Chairperson. I will come in on then the questions on the Nkomazi SEZ. I think firstly, there was a question regarding the traditional leaders and how are participating within the Nkomazi SEZ. Chairperson, in this regard, we can report that on the steering committee, the House of Traditional Leaders is represented, but also our traditional leaders are invited to the political oversight committee together with the MEC and the mayors in order to ensure that we get their buy-in and also their participation on the Nkomazi SEZ, and that they make land then available for people who wants to participate in the agricultural development of the Nkomazi area. Just in terms of then, there was a question on agro-processing. What is agro-processing stake within the SEZ? If we also look at the area of the current investment as well as the take-up, we can see that agro-processing ought to be around 60 to 70% of the Nkomazi SEZ, and that is a very good thing in terms of as the member rightly indicated, for job creation in terms of the agricultural value chain. In terms of the servitude and the time frame there too, the servitude is for the new access road to the Nkomazi SEZ. In terms of our approvals, we cannot get direct access from the N4, hence the need then for the servitude over the then Sasol garage to gain access to the SEZ site. The time frame, as we're speaking now, members, there's a meeting with Sasol together with the new owner of the garage to get that consent going. So our time frame is by the end of this month, everything should be in place in terms of the access road. Sasol is also affected in terms of the adjacent to the approved SEZ site is the Sasol gas pumping station. They currently have access from the N4 road. Our barrier fence will close that access, so they are also directly affected in terms of the access, in terms of access to the Nkomazi SEZ. In terms of the traffic impact study, there was a question, was the EI done? Yes, honorable members, the EI is in place. There is, however, what we are addressing in terms of the barrier fence, the access road, the services, all those issues are mainly conditions of that approval of the EIA and township establishment approval. So as I stated previously, we're currently in the interim phase, and we are now complying to all those conditions for development then to commence in March 2023. Also there was in terms of the bulk infrastructure, are we ready? Yes, currently as we speak, we have engineers that are doing the detailed designs, as I state, of the required bulk infrastructure, as well as the required internal services. I think what's important is the programming and staging of those infrastructure services as per requirements of the tenants, and that's why the investment plan and the investment stages is so important, so that your engineering services as is planned and rolled out as per tenant requirements. Also, another question that was raised by Honorable Mbuyane was the question of acting members, the acting board members, as well as the acting members of staff. I have to agree with Mr. Mbriani that and that's why it's also on the critical path that we staff that entity as soon as possible with permanent staff members, especially the critical posts. We've identified the CEO, CFO, and then some of the general members as critical posts moving forward, especially for the development phase. And that also then the MEC appoints a permanent board, but a permanent board that will also be representative of the stakeholders of the Nkomazi SEZ. So both those issues are receiving attention and hopefully will be concluded soon. Honorable Burns asked what is currently on the ground. Currently on the ground, it's just open felt, but as at the moment we are finalizing the issue of the barrier fence, and we see that construction at least being by the end of this month, where they will then erect a barrier fence. So at least there will be then some activity on the site. Also in terms of trade agreements, the Mpumalanga province has a trade agreement with the Maputo province in Mozambique. Those agreements are mainly on collaboration on agriculture and logistics, and then also working together on those two areas with specific reference to the port of Maputo, as well as then the Nkomazi SEZ, as well as then our other project, the fresh produce market. I agree also with the member to say that rural development is crucial, especially for a rural province like ourselves, to create opportunities for people where they are. And agriculture is seen as a main stimuli in this regard. Also in terms of the SEZ, it's will deal mainly with agro-processing. So also in terms of the farming methodology will be a bit different. It's high density planting. Quality is not that important, but quantity is very important in terms of process of agricultural, or providing agricultural goods to agro processing. Very tight margins on the pricing of those commodities. So high density planting is a requirement for farmers to make some profit, but more importantly is those farmers participating in the value chain. So getting the necessary secondary cooperatives in place for those farmers, then also to participate in the value add going throughout the process. Also in terms of the approvals, I think there's a feeling of members that the approvals are taking too long. I think this has specifically got to do with the requirements of the record of decision on the environment, as well as the approval from the Town Planning Tribunal, that we are busy with complying to those conditions of establishment, so that we can establish site on the SEZ by March 2023. I think most of the critical planning issues has now been addressed in terms of the SEZ, and we're now moving as we speak. The work is being done, and it's just compliance and then site establishment that needs to be finalized. Also in terms of the other members, in terms of when are we going to see the development, and when are we going to break ground. I think what's important, and I think that's the main theme of the presentation, was that this current year is the interim phase, and we need to address the issues that was presented, then to move into the development phase by March 2023. However, some work will be happening prior to that, especially in terms of the professional work by the engineers, the town planners, the environmentalists, as well as then the construction of the barrier fence which is also a condition. I think Honorable Swaku also asked a question in terms of job creation. Those jobs mostly currently is professionals, because we're busy with addressing all the professional work. Also, there will be some jobs created in terms of the erection of the barrier fence between the site and the N4, as then also the jobs that was created, the 3 professionals currently serving in the PMU. So the honourable member correctly indicated not much jobs created at this stage, but when we moved into the development of the SEZ, much more jobs will be created. I think what's important to note also in terms of our provincial economic recovery plan, that the SEZ is a priority project for the provincial government moving ahead, and all the necessary steering committees, intervention teams, as well as political oversight committees is in place to ensure that we deliver on this project. Honourable Chairperson, I will stop there. I don't know if some of my colleagues also want to add just on the response to the questions. Thank you very much.
Mr. Sidiso, is there any other responses?
Thank you, Chairperson. Yeah, the colleagues have covered the specific questions that have been raised, but there's just one. I see the DTIC is in the meeting on the industrial parks funding. There was a specific question on that one, and it's the DTIC. I'm not sure if they will want to address that question.
Thank you very much. Mr. Klassen, are you able to respond? I don't know if anybody else if the acting DG is on the platform or...
Chairperson, the
yes.
DTIC is led by Ms. Mongole, Chair.
Okay.
Who will then able to facilitate responses. Thanks.
Mongole.
Morning, Chairperson. Thank you so much. The question regarding the funding of the industrial park similarly applies to the funding of the SEZ. We do receive funding applications from the province through MEGA, and they are assisted by DVSA under the Critical Infrastructure Program. So as soon as we approve, we get into a 3-party agreement. It's us, DVSA, and the province. When we implemented phase 1, that's the process we followed. The reason we bring that, we also assist the province with the technical expertise through the DVSA. But in terms of other applications, because we funded Ekandustria, this is the second one. So DVSA assists them to do an assessment of, say, what are other infrastructure that are required to be done. So currently the application that is being processed is for Ekandustria. So they will also look at other industrial park within the province. In terms of Nkomazi, I think as soon as the province is ready to put in an application, they will then get approval from their board, and then they will apply through the SEZ fund. So the application will follow the same process. However, the flow of funds with this one will be different because it will be the agreement between the DTIC and the SEZ itself. My colleague Tammy is with me. He'll be able to take further comments in terms of how far is the process in terms of the applications for the industrial parks infrastructure as well as the SEZ. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Klassen.
Good morning, Chair and honorable members. I think from the status of applications that are currently at hand with the DTIC, these will only be finalized once the DVSA and the operators of the industrial parks themselves have concluded on the elements that have been highlighted. Currently, I'm not able to ascertain, maybe the park itself can indicate if ever they have put in an application and fulfilled those areas which may have been highlighted during the compilation of that application process. But as I also happen to sit in the board, or rather at the adjudication committee of the CIP itself, we only receive applications once they have been fully, I think, completed with all the areas that may have been raised during the interaction between the DTIC, DBSA, and the industrial park itself. So currently, there have been quite a number of issues that were raised in the previous application process that were forwarded, such as how do they address the issues of the payment that is due to City of Tshwane, the governance structures, as you have seen, that they highlighted the issue of the SPV that is proposed so that we can have a tacit entity that's able to take forward decision and circulate the collection of those revenues from the companies within the operation in order to make the parks themselves sustainable instead of distributing onto other portfolios. Some of the other areas which were raised was the issue of addressing the issues of maintenance, post-funding and revitalization of some of the assets. So those are some of the issues that have been raised by the board previously when these applications now are coming afresh. We need certainty with respect to how then do they assure that the funded items will be sustained through the period for which it is intended to. Amongst those as well, we want to see, like they indicated, now there's a new investor pipeline that they said about 8 of those now are new applications. Would want to see those kind of things. So, but I'm sure they would be able to guide whether they've fully subscribed to what the areas which were the gaps in the previously raised interaction with the DTIC. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Unless there are other inputs from the teams from the Mpumalanga Economic Development and Tourism, I think we will now pause for 5 minutes, for 10 minutes for a comfort break, and then we'll resume with the NEF and the IDC with their stakeholders. Okay, I don't see any other.
Mr. Malamatia, Chair.
Mr. Malamatia, have you got a follow-up question?
Yes. No, man, Mr. Klassen, it's just I'm a bit worried, man. In all the projects that we are dealing with, and when it's coming to the issue of funding, everybody's complaining about it, that the process is so long, and it takes long to just be told that you are declined, you cannot be assisted. Even in here, in a very critical situation of where we are, questions will be, how long will this take to ensure that you get into one room, every party that is involved, and we get all the reasons be attended to. If it takes a boss berat, you are there, all the engineers of every entity, they belongs to all of us here as the government. Why it takes so long to just not to have the sense of speedy in dealing with these matters? Because if indeed they what to call it in your hands, you are delaying the whole process simply because you have got reasons that you are saying they are still going to be looked at. But whereas you can take all the players into one room, 1 month, come here and say, we have dealt with this thing, the issue of how it's going to be maintained, the issue of how it's going to be paid, I don't think it.
We have lost you there, Honorable Malamacha.
Also just
yes,
finished.
but I think we hear what you're saying. And I think we must just resolve maybe at the end of this meeting that we're going to ask for a report of all funding that is pending, applications that are still pending, and when those applications were made, so that we apply our minds in our oversight role. Thank you, Honorable Malamacha. So it's now 5 to 11. We will break until 5 past 11. Thank you very much. Oh, Mr. Klassen, you wanted to respond?
Yes, Honorable Chair. So I wanted to give just a feedback that the delay is not necessarily from the DTIC's point of view. Neither is it during a feedback session, which is given to the parks themselves. But when you look at the challenges that usually embroils the agencies and the provinces, it is not something within the DTIC's control. In the past, you would have seen the report that was shared together with the committee on the underperformance and on the vandalism that also took place on most of these entities and estates that were funded. This as a result of also audit conducted by the AG, DPME, amongst the others, including National Treasury, whom we're working with to address these issues. They are not of short term to be addressed because they have been there for quite a long time. So these are issues that affect the governments, and ultimately the spillover of those things will lead to these delays. The funding has always been made available. But when you look at the funding that has been availed vis-a-vis the value that you would get in terms of what's the yield on it, you would find that it's significantly low. So we have been found wanting in terms of expanding into resources, which then afterwards we cannot account for. It also comes back to us. So the delay is not on the DTIC's point of view. It is largely has to do with the issues on the ground, which has to be addressed jointly by the province leadership, their agencies itself, and the department. We do work with them, but some of these things are beyond our control. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I think hence we are suggesting that we get a complete picture on these two, the SEZ and the industrial park, on all outstanding applications. I see Honorable Dr. Tswaku.
No, thank you very much, Chair. Sorry, I won't be long, Chair. I agree with my honorable there. Chairperson, the situation when we leave these meetings every time, situations, they tend to differ when you go to departments and these entities. They are bullies and they don't do their work. And I think that we need to move in closer because we're getting a tip up because they said money is available. They come say, well, this is the money that we have. But I don't want to, you know, as you said that, yeah, we are going to reflect on it and all of that. But we need to check it, and especially IDC and NEF. They will make you stall. They will make you they're unresponsive. They will create a runaround up and down. I've got 2 cases that I will submit it to you. So it's not surprising to me that SEZ, maybe when they want to apply for funding, they're being taken from pillar to post. That's what they are doing to other people, by the way. But anyway, you said that we're going to talk about it and get a full picture. And also they must come and defend themselves and say if this is happening or it's not happening now. Thank you very much, my chair. Sorry to take your time.
No, that's fine. So it's now a minute before 11. We will reconvene at 10 past 11. Thank you. take a presentation from the IDC. Secretary must just tell us who's here from the IDC and then who the stakeholders are, or whether IDC will introduce their stakeholders so that members can have an opportunity to speak to the entity and to the stakeholder that we visited during the oversight period.
Chairperson, Mr. Ramadibe, who's head of corporate affairs, will lead the delegation of the IDC, and maybe Mr. Ramadibe will introduce the stakeholders that we visited during our oversight. Chair.
Mr. Ramadibe.
Thank you very much, Chair. And if I may also request sharing rights just to queue up the presentation, Chair.
You are a host. You are a host, so you can share your presentation.
Perfect. Thank you, Chair. Just a second for me. Thank you, Chairperson, and members of the committee. My name is Tsepo Ramdibe, the head of corporate affairs at the Industrial Development Corporation. With me on the call today are a number of colleagues, Mr. Khampi Bapela, Neo Mokhodi, and a few other colleagues that are with us that are part and parcel of the deal-making process, but also looking after clients in the Mpumalanga area that the portfolio committee also visited. Any other colleagues that I may have missed, please, apologies, but you can also indicate your presence. Madam Chair, I believe I'm ready to proceed with your permission.
Yes, proceed, and just indicate to us who your stakeholders are who are with you.
The stakeholders, we do have Cadana Enterprises, we have Red Cross, Roadgrass. We also have Corp. Madam, these are all funded clients and partners on the various grants and loan facilities in the area.
Okay, thank you very much. You can proceed with your presentation.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And our first client and partner is Cadana Business Enterprises. It is a business operating in the agricultural commercial livestock space. The client has grant funding of 70.2 million. This includes 49.6 million of an IDC loan and a 22 million grant funding from the Agri-Industrial Fund. The client has been quite active. The first drawdown and disbursement was in October 22. The funding was to be utilized to expand its chicken broiler business. The production facility prior to this was producing 1.8 million birds per annum, but with the new funding and the expansion project underway, it will add on 2.5 million birds per annum, bringing the combined operations to an industrial scale of 44.3 million birds per year. When the committee last visited the broiler, the groundwork and the preparation of the new facility had just commenced. We're happy to report that to date, the client has drawn 55% of the approved funding. They currently have requested to draw 33%, which would leave about 12% remaining. The construction of the new facility is 90% complete, and happy to report that the first order of day-old chickens has been placed and delivery is anticipated, in the next week. From a visual perspective, Chair and committee members, you can see the new facilities that have been established with, with the utilization of the funding themselves. And for us, with the current status, the orders that have been placed, we have a good story to tell and are wishing the company all the success, because we anticipate that there will be a demand for this newfound additional capacity. Madam Chair, this is our first client that we're presenting. The next for us is Roadgrass Investment, also in the agricultural space. operating in the Delmas Mpumalanga area. The client received funding totaling 55.3 million, comprising 37.3 million IDC loan funding, but also 18 million from the Department of Land, Rural Development, and Agriculture, which is really the grant funding portion. Funds were disbursed last year, September, and the funds were to be utilized to build an 8 technology advanced broiler houses that would house 40,000 chickens per cycle. The operations, August 22 was the target for effective operating of the facility itself. So when the committee visited, this was really the last status update. But for us, we're happy that 99% of the funds have been approved and accessed. It's enabled the Broadgrass to complete the build infrastructure, operating at full capacity. First cycle of chickens have been delivered to Astral Operations Limited in the first week of October. We're happy to see that the client is already growing its second cycle of chicks. And with a client like Astral, we anticipate even further more positive impact and yield to their project. As you can see, the facility itself, state-of-the-art broiler facility with the chicks that would be then on sold to Astral as a company. Chair, the third client that we're presenting, it is Corp. And this is one where we have a mixed bag, and it's a challenge that the committee had also understood at the last visit. If you recall, this is it's a youth-owned emerging logistics company that secured a 5-year Eskom contract for delivery of coal to Tutuka Power Station. 5-year contract was, to come to an end March 2024. But there have been particular problems with that power station that affected the demand. The initial projection spoke to the demand. So coal is delivered to the power station via conveyor belt, but also via rail. And Corp was a player in the delivery of coal via the rail network. But with the challenges at that particular power station, the anticipated demand was adjusted down. And there was a feeling that the coal delivered via the conveyor belt was adequate, that there wouldn't be a requirement for delivery via rail, which affected the client. Since the visit, the IDC has engaged the client to see how best we could support. So in May 2022, we conducted a site visit to look at a value creation plan and options to assist the client during this difficult period. Subsequent to that progression in June, the client advised the IDC that there were negotiations with Eskom relating to the early termination of the contract. The client requested that we provide settlement figures on the loan facility, which we provided at the end of June. With this particular one, Chair and committee members, it's really just to provide additional reasons for not only the challenges, but also the position that the client finds themselves in and negotiating with Eskom for the early termination of the contract. At the inception, as I indicated, it was anticipated there would be massive demand for coal that would require both conveyor belt and rail delivery. But with the requirements changing, the demand plummeted. It decreased to a point where it was uneconomical for the client Eskom to transport and receive coal via rail. And this affected the business model for our client Corp. So conveyor belt will remain the primary reliance for Eskom to receive coal to feed that power station. Between the client, Corp, and Eskom, it was understood that it was uneconomical to maintain the contract under the circumstances. because of just the redundancy and reduction in demand. So the cost of having a rail siding that will not be utilized to the maximum could in time be considered fruitless expenditures. So that's really the unfortunate position that the client and ESCOM find themselves in the negotiations underway. So the notice of termination was issued in September this year. The parties are currently negotiations for a settlement. We understand that the settlement will include a settlement of the loan facilities provided by the IDC and all creditors affected by the early termination of this contract. Chair, that is really the update on the clients that the committee would have visited and the engagements had with the various clients. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ramodibe. Can I invite your stakeholders from Cadana, Roadcross and Mixed Corp to indicate if they would like to make an input? Just raise your hand so that I can recognize you. Is there somebody from Cadana? David?
Yes, Honorable.
Who is iPhone 29?
Yes.
Okay, David, proceed, and then iPhone 29 must just identify themselves so that they can be renamed.
Okay, thanks for the opportunity to share the progress of the Cadana project. Yes, and we know that the project has officially started earlier in April. And yeah, it was a very tight project, but we've managed to do quite a lot of work up until where we are today. We were working around the clock with all the service providers, contractors and subcontractors that were on site. And safety-wise, I can report that we've managed to do the project with zero incident. And currently, the status of the project has been already alluded by by the IDC. And yes, from the challenges that we had, we managed to go through them, especially the rain, even during winter time. But yeah, interventions and some measures were in place so that the job can proceed. And the crucial challenge that we had now, it was ESCOM, but finally we managed to upgrade the transformer, and the generator has been installed. They're gonna program it on the 18th. The scheduled date is on the 18th of October to program it, and everything will be done with power. And on the water, everything is done. Water are gonna be connected from the rainwater connection. Yes, there was minor hiccups with the servitudes on the one conveyor belt through the Sasol mine, but that has been handled. It's at the final stage. And the placement schedule is for the 5th of October. For the new beds to come in, it will be the first cycle for the project. And during the construction phase, close to 40 jobs has been created for the locals. Yeah, and once the job is in operation, 16 permanent jobs will be created, and additional 10 on the cycle during the placement. And when we remove the chickens, we will have casual workers that will be in around all the cycles. And for now, everything I would say that it's in order. Hiccups are there, but we are managing them. I don't foresee any challenges going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. What a good story to tell. I can see those silos and of course the completion of the construction that we saw that was in progress at the time. Can I hand over to iPhone 29 first? Just switch on your camera and introduce yourself. iPhone 29, and then unmute yourself.
Honorable Chair, this is Misho from Corp. Pardon our, yeah, I'm the Chief Executive. My name is Mishoko Ove. I'm the Chief Executive Officer at Corp. Pardon our description on the Zoom for the iPhone naming. Yeah.
No, that's fine. I can hear from your voice that you are who you say you are. Proceed.
Thanks, Honorable Chair. Sorry, I've got a bit of a flu. Without repeating what the IDC have explained, I will just want to give a summarized version of events in light of what challenges we've experienced and some bit of highlights that we also had. We were awarded the contract by Eskom on 2019. We started work, I think, at around March that year. We approached the IDC to finance the project because we needed plant and equipment, which include trucks and heavy lifting equipment like reach stackers and forklifts. The IDC approved our funding at about 44 million and a couple of rands there. It came in handy for us because the first 6 months of the project, we were leasing the equipment, which was substantially expensive for the project. Then when the IDC funding kicked in, we were quite relieved because then there was a lot of cost saving on the project. We ramped up the project as the year progressed by employing more people and even having more subcontractors, because the project dictated that we need to subcontract some of the work. The SDNL requirements were such that 30% of that work ought to have been sourced locally, and we complied. So by the end of the second year, the project was in full swing, where we had about 5 subcontractors on site, and we had about 86 people permanently employed by the project. We were doing okay. We kept up on our repayments to the loan, I think right up to the end of 2020. Then our challenges started 2021, where there were 2 merits of challenges. The contract is an Eskom contract, but it is serviced by the Transnet rail terminal trains. So we get the trains from Transnet, and we get the coal from the mines, meaning you've got 2 stakeholders that you are in permanent discussions with. So that exposed you to challenges coming from Transnet, meaning if there are rail challenges, it will impact on the project, or if there are coal-related challenges, it will also impact the project. So that was a bit tricky for us to handle both. If trains were not an issue, coal was an issue, but we were navigating that until March, April 2021. Where Eskom started reducing the number of trains that they would order, particularly weekly, for us to offload. So we then wrote to them, raising that the reduction of the trains that we are offloading, it's impacting on our overall overheads. And it is threatening many aspects of the project. Then Eskom said to us, they are having challenges with the power station in terms of the coal burn rate. So they cannot take more coal because there's just too much coal on the ground and the burn rate is low. So at any given time, there's 5 units, generating units at the power station. So when we were doing okay, the generating units that are working would be about 3 or 4 of them. Sometimes they will reach a peak of about 5 units working at any given time. So that will be a smooth running operating status for us. Now, when they started having problems, the units started going down from 3 to 2. Ultimately, sometimes 1 unit was working. So that became a big problem. And the challenge went, it started increasing as we went. I think we reported our first risk reduction concern in March, April 2021. By June of 2021, the problem was so big that at some instances, we would only have 1 train to offload a week, meaning that at a normal week, we'll do about 21 trains. Then that went down to sometimes one train. Then it became a problem. Then we wrote to them to say, we want to at least reduce the operating hours, reduce it from 24 hours to 12 hours. Then we can still manage some of the overheads without having to lay off people. Then that was approved. The problem persisted that after 3 months of reduction of the hours, we were then now forced to retrench some of our employees because we could not carry on with the cost of having a fully flagged staffed operation when the numbers were just not making sense. And that meant that we also were exposed to operational risk because it's a highly labor-intensive operation where man and machine interface. So the risk is just too high. Then we reduced the number, I think, from 86 to, we retrenched about 26 people at the time. Even after the reduction of our employees, which was a very painful exercise because it impacted on a lot of people in the communities that we were operating there. But the problem did not stop. Early this year, February, March, there were no trains. Then I think, I'm not sure when the portfolio committee came to visit. I'm not sure of the date when the committee came. At the time when the committee came, we hadn't seen a train in a whole month, meaning that we had equipment that was standing, we had employees that were on site, that we could no longer afford to carry the burden of paying for them. So we then started defaulting on the ITC loan. We then started negotiating with our employees to say we'll pay you half of the salaries, but that could only last for so long. And ultimately, we wrote to them to say, you know what, this thing is not working for all of us because we depleted all our reserves. And we then went back to Eskom to say, Eskom, what is the situation now? I think this was now in May this year. Then Eskom said to us, look, the situation at Tutuka doesn't look like it's going to improve at any day soon. So we're thinking maybe let's start looking at the reality of terminating the contract early and see what impact will that have. Then the Eskom asked us to give us some few scenarios and package some costing for terminations and many other things. Then the negotiations started in May. We went back and forth, compliance department were introduced. We needed to talk to the employees. We needed to get termination agreements with our other creditors, including the IDC. We asked for termination costs and our subcontractors, etc., etc. In September this year, then the termination certificate was issued. Eskom issued a termination certificate to say now we've spoken to all our stakeholders internally and externally that it is the only other option for us. Then we are terminating. Then we communicated the decision to the IDC to say Eskom has now issued a termination certificate, meaning that the contract is no longer valid. So we are in the last stages of the termination settlement agreements with Eskom, and hopefully by God's grace, by end of this month or early next month, we should have more light on how the termination will then be permanently closed. We're looking into settling the IDC loan. We are talking to our labor specialists to calculate the retrenchment packages, and even the subcontractors that we also had on site to also talk to the cost of terminating all those associated subcontracting contracts and maintenance, etc., etc. So, Honorable Chair, I think that would have been our deliberation and our presentation. So far, we didn't prepare any presentation because there's not really much to show apart from the reality on the ground. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you for that background. I think it assists members understanding also in terms of new members and also to refresh our memories. But it's really sad that it came to that. We'll now move on to NEF. NEF is led by Ms. Kanyile. Ms. Kanyile.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you. I'm going to activate my video. I hope you can see me. I'm going
Yes,
to...
I can see you.
Thank you. So I'm going to ask that my colleague, Mr. Lebogang Pasha, then flight the presentation on our behalf.
Okay, can we just make sure that he has sharing rights, please, Mr. Hermans?
Chair, just repeat the surname, Chair. I just didn't get it.
Mr. Pasha,
Lebogang Pasha.
No problem.
Okay, thank you. And then I'm accompanied by our colleague, Ms. Nkomazi SEZ, who's a senior investment associate within the NEF. Mr. Lebogang Pasha will be flighting the presentation as our regional manager in Mpumalanga. And then we're also accompanied by Mr. Kwas Caesar, who is the NEF stakeholder. Lebogang, are you able to flight it? I don't know. There we go. Okay. Are you able to see the screen on your end, Chairperson and committee?
Yes, okay. You must just go into presentation mode, to slide mode.
Yes.
See your...
Okay.
Let's just go I think to the blue button there so that you take up the whole screen. Not sure if that's going to make it smaller. No, not yet. But we can see the presentation if
okay,
that is
thank you.
Can show.
Thank you, Chairperson. I think the challenge is that this is a PDF. We would have been able to do full screen if we were flighting from a PowerPoint, but with your permission, we will proceed, Chairperson.
Yes, proceed.
Thank you. Lebogang, if you can go to the next slide. Thank you. So the Parliamentary Portfolio Committee of the DTIC did visit one of our clients called Electrotron, which was funded through the NEF's Black Business Manufacturing Program. So this is a fund that we are received was allocated by the DTIC for the benefit of Black-owned SMEs operating in the manufacturing sector. Electrotron is based in Middelburg in the Mpumalanga province. So what we would like to provide as feedback to the committee is that Electrotron has grown faster than what we had forecasted in their first year since the company received funding from the NEF to the tune of 18 million rand. And during the site visit by the Parliamentary Portfolio Committee, the CEO, Mr. Jack Mshwewu, actually did highlight that they were growing faster than anticipated and therefore had working capital requirements, and that these working capital constraints that they were facing were actually becoming a barrier, preventing them from growing at the rates that the market was demanding their products. So to try and manage this, they were, managing orders by trying to delay them as much as possible to try and manage the working capital available. So the NEF is currently at an advanced stage of conducting a due diligence investigation to assess Electrotron's application for working capital to the extent of 15 million rand. So we see that the additional funding will help Electrotron unlock further growth opportunities. And in addition to the business growing, we hope that this will add on 20 more jobs to the current 57 jobs that are within Electrotron. Thank you. Next slide. Okay, it hasn't moved on my side, Lebogang.
No, it's moved already.
Fantastic. Okay, so the other stakeholder is Mazikenzi Recycling, of which Mr. Koos is on the call to also be part of this presentation. So the regional manager did conduct a site visit to Mazikenzi Recycling around the 20th of May this year. And from the visit, they could glean and establish a number of aspects. So the first being that the business required additional funding for the acquisition of new production equipment. They also needed funding to upgrade their facility so that it complies with health and safety requirements. And they also require working capital to scale up production. So the lead entrepreneur of Mazikenzi Recycling, Mr. Koos Caesar, was then referred to SEDA around June to assist him with the completion of the business plan. Additionally, SEDA was engaged to provide grant funding to the business that would then complement any other loan funding that would come from the NEF. We have had some challenges in that respect as the situation or the process on SEDA side is taking a little bit longer than anticipated. So in order to make sure that we expedite and move with speed, we have then stepped in as the NEF to start assisting the client directly in packaging the business proposal. And some of the activities to date include the fact that we've been calling equipment suppliers to gain various quotations so that we can understand the CapEx requirements. We've assisted them in developing health and safety standards so that they're in compliance. We're also assisting them with the floor factory layout and design to make sure that the operations function optimally to provide goods at the required standard. And we are also in the process of writing an investment proposal, which then would include a financial model, a write-up, and also speak to the financial needs and to demonstrate the viability of the business and what appropriate instruments and what appropriate amount would make sense as the initial stage one funding, if we could call it that. The proposal is anticipated to be presented to our investment committees once we've concluded the DD process, and we're hoping to wrap this process up next month, Chairperson. That brings us to the end of our update. We'll then take any comments and questions from the Chairperson and the committee members.
Thank you very much. But before we do that, we'll just check Mr. Koos Caesar had his hand up earlier. I'm sure he wants to make an input.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. We don't have Electrotron in the meeting.
No,
thank you, Chair.
Okay. Okay, you may proceed, Mr. Caesar.
Thank you, Chair, for allowing me to speak in this platform. Yes, indeed, it's true. NEF did come into the play after the site visit, but they, however, first referred me to CEDA, of which the process took longer. But Mr. Lebogang Pasha came through again to try and push the funding as much as possible. So what they've identified, because of we are a recycling company where we manufacture X-rays, so our plant, it needs some pest control, of which Mr. Pasha is helping us with that at the moment. Because the biggest challenge that we're having now, we're having a challenge that we need big contractors. We need a company that can give us committed volumes every month, where we can supply them with X number of X-rays, and that we know that every month we have X amount of money that's coming in that will be able us to pay our salaries and for our rent and other production costs. So that's the challenge that we have now, because we mostly rely on the walk-ins customers and people that come by every now and then. We don't have a stable contract that we supply. And also the equipment that we have, we are lacking a dryer. So of which I'm hopefully they're going to help us with that also, because after the process of manufacturing X-rays, you need to dry them. So yeah, thank you for those pictures. So these are the pictures taken in our plant. So after producing, we rely on the sun to dry our product, of which it delays production and also it delays our sales revenues. So that's the challenges that we have now. The biggest thing now we need a stable contract, perhaps from the government or from one of these big players, so that we know that there's a X amount every month that we get from the supply with X amount of trays that we supply. So far, I'm very positive with what the NEF has done. I'm looking forward to working with them, and I hope that they're going to help us address these challenges. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk. Thanks.
Mr. Caesar, I just wanted to ask you, when we were dealing with the industrial park, discussing the industrial park, you had your hand up. So I thought you wanted to also make an input on the actual, on your location and the facilities at the industrial park. So you have the opportunity to speak now if you wish. Mr. Caesar? Okay, it seems like he does not have anything to say on that. So I'll then take hands from members on the NEF and IDC presentation, and even you can interact with the stakeholders who were present in the meeting. Members, I'll take hands. Honorable Thring. I think you can start because I see people are following you, Honorable Thring, so you may lead us. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, no, I think we welcome the presentations. Want to thank those who have participated for the updates of our site visits. Particularly, I think progress that has been made with regards to the broilers. It's a pity. I think, was it mixed core at Tutuka, the project there that is now looking at being terminated, and as a result, jobs will be lost. So my comment is just around, Chair, and I don't know whether this is the right place to raise it, but I'm going to do that anyway. Just policy with regards to shutting down on and limiting, the derivation of energy from coal. South Africa has an abundance of coal, and we know that it appears to be a government policy to look at limiting our use of coal and going on to going on to what is now called the so-called green energy. And Chair, I'm concerned because while we may be cutting back, we are also then exporting our coal to the first world countries. I think I may have raised this in one of our other meetings. We are exporting our coal. Right now, Europe is buying up as much coal as they can because of the challenges that they have with the Russia-Crimea war. And so while we are cutting back and in a sense, doing ourselves a disservice where we have a cheap supply of, possible cheap supply of energy for our economy, we are cutting back, reducing, and here now we have a possible prime example of how jobs are going to be lost if we continue along this path. Now, I don't think that we should contend that we need to have a mix, a good energy mix, but to cut back on our usage of coal, where we have an abundance which gives us a comparative advantage. I think it does not make sense to me. In fact, I think it would be economic suicide if we continue along this particular path. And maybe we need to have a particular discussion on our energy mix going forward. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Mr. Msiza, I note that you are back, so let me just take Honorable Mbuyane and then I'll give you an opportunity to speak. Honorable Mbuyane and then Dr. Twaku.
Chair, thanks once again for the opportunity. We welcome the presentation from both entities, the IDC and also the NEF. Chair, with regard to the IDC, in terms of what happened to the mixed Corp, and also what Mr. Okobe has just alluded to, because we are now seemingly failing to create jobs. We were failing our mandate to industrialize. Can we be clarified what next in terms of our main mandate as a core mandate for industrialization at the DTIC? Chair, the other one maybe from the NEF, we just want to see impact on the ground that has been done by NEF, maybe in Mpumalanga, or do they have programs besides these two projects that is just alluded to? Because that one has just been dealt with on June and now still have to be finalized. I just want to check whether they will be able to assist with regard to investors on the stable contract that is needed from Mazikenzi, and also they are able to assist in buying the dry machine, because if there's no sun, those egg tray cannot be warmed or anything, cannot come dry. And also the package, what you just said, you said the issue of industrial park in Ekandustria. We just want to check whether it's workable or it's user friendly to Mr. Kuos. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Sorry, I saw I'm muted. Dr. Twaku.
Thank you very much, my chair. Let me agree with my honorable member, Mbuyane, on there's that issue there that, yeah, we must get more programs from NEF, what is really happening. Must give us maybe, chair, I'll suggest that maybe not focusing on Mpumalanga alone. They need to come back and give a detailed report on the projects that they are doing and how far are they, who have they funded, how many applications which are processed, and then how many that are successful. And then those are successful, or the ones that have been declined, they need to give a reasons why, a detailed one, not some frivolous answers on all of that. Why I'm saying this, Chair? I'm going to submit to you 2 complaints. It actually talks to what my Honorable Mbuyane is actually doing in terms of what is happening. Are there any other issues and problems and the program that are being done and all of that? There are 2 companies, Appetite Land Agriculture and Malume Business Solution. Can we please get a written response in detail? Maybe I'm going to send you a letter, my chair. What happened there? Because there's something that's going on in that NEF which I really don't like. I hate people that are very unethical. We need to, when we come to this committee, it's a committee of parliament, and we must be taken very serious, and we must, respect each other. I thank Tsulu. She's been working very hard to look at those issues. I send them. There are people on the ground who need funding. And it looks as if that NEF is playing dilly-dallying with them. And there is a serious complaint of NEF representatives actually colluding with an individual that is willing to sell something with another individual, the one with this applicant. And the NEF individuals will go behind and make deals with that person that this applicant is actually applying funding for. And I'm going to write it to you, Chair, so I don't want to make it as if, but I'm just highlighting that there's some shenanigans which are not right happening in that NEF. And maybe they must get their houses in order, because when we start to go in and investigate and expose them, it's not going to be very nice. And another one is the Malume Business Solutions. The NEF people apply to actually them, they spend money and time, and then after that, they just leave it as it is. So we need, my chair, a proper response in terms of this one. Now, coming to Cadana, it's a very good one. I'm very impressed. I like to see progress. That is what I see. Chair, I call a spade a spade. If people are doing some clandestine things and that they are crooks and they start to do things we don't understand, I don't praise that. I come clean. Now with this one of the Cadana Business Park, I like it. I think it's a good step. It's a step in the right direction. IDC, fine, just continue assisting there. These are the things that we want to hear. And most people start complaining. You can come here and complain. Say, this is what you did. This is where you are now. And please, you need to assist these individuals, and you need to assist them quickly. Don't spend time and time and time, because you know the cash flow, the time value of money. The problem I have with you is that you take time to make decisions. You take time to reflect, and I don't know what, you need to, because these people, remember, everything is about the time value of money. Conditions are changing every single time. So if you dilly-dally and you don't make a decision, then situations get very worse. So I hope now with the chicken ones, you will be able to assist, Gekekano Business Park and ensure that they become one of the successful stories that we can be proud of as a committee. But I wanted to check with you, maybe with the Gigani or yourself, are they having a secured market for chicken? Or is just, you order and order? Is the market secured, or is there a contract that is in place to actually uptake those, I think it's broilers, né? Yeah. saying, Chair of Brothers, yeah, is there a contract that is in place to be able to do those things? And then, because remember, our tariffs are very low, so South Africa is a dumping ground for chickens, for like, you know, we can take third grade chicken coming from USA, and well, of course, you've got some chicken that is coming from the other countries coming to South Africa. So how secure it is there a market that has been secured? We don't want to come back here, IDC, and then say Cadana is experiencing problem, you know, no orders anymore, we have to terminate. Then you're going to find yourself in deep trouble. Then we have to come on top of you. Now, mixed Corp, this is very sad. Mix-up, it's very sad. I feel you, and it's very sad. You know, I've seen so many black, you know, entrepreneurs going through what you are going through now. You get a contract from a state, a company that you believe in, think that it will support you, things will be there. And then at the end, you find yourself that things are reversed. You don't get a clear communication. Those who are supposed to help you, they are taking you from pillar to post. We know the stories, and actually they are happening on the ground, my chair. It's a reality. What Miko is going through is what is happening to every entrepreneur, black entrepreneur on the ground. There's nothing beautiful that's happening. They get these things, but the support, especially from the so-called entities which are coming to report to us, my chair is not there. If they say it's there, it's fine. Let them prove it to us. I want them to say to come back to here. IDC and NEF should have taken Nko by hand, and don't let him come here to us and go report all these bad stories. They could have said, how are you going to help this young guy, this black company? They are coming and lamenting with us here with Nko. What do you want us to actually do? We said, okay, let's see that we must make sure that these jobs are actually saved. What things can we do? What can Mixed Corp can do differently in terms, maybe do something else? How can we help this group of black entrepreneurs with the families that they are employing? Because those 80 people, remember, there are 5 or 10 people that now they were, you know, actually putting bread on the table. Maybe let's say 800 people were benefiting from that. Now they are, IDC and NEF are part of the winding down of that campaign. And I bet my chair, they must prove me wrong. I hope that Mixed Corp is not going to go away with a debt here. And you find that Miko Kobe is listed now, is blacklisted, he cannot do any job. We must actually ensure that they actually come back and report again. And we must help them because he did not put himself in this condition. We must make sure he doesn't come into debt and spiral into, you know, he just been left alone. I plead with you because I've seen cases of this nature with many black companies there, that these entities, they don't help them. They don't even answer calls, Chair. NEF, many people that they want to engage, they are slow acting to a point that, you know, others, you find that they have to approach us and say, okay, look, let us try and actually assist you. We hope that is not going to happen. Let us help Mixed Corp, my chair. Let us move in closer and monitor it. Those black entrepreneurs must not find themselves in huge debts, and let us help them. And if it needs be to wind up, fine. Let it be, but let us help them. I agree with remember saying this thing of this code is not going to work. This is what happens when you deal with people who don't know science. They don't know what is the heating value of coal compared to the heating value of the so-called, the renewables. They say you must wind down, stop coal-fired stuff. You can't just do that. Even mathematics shows you that. We are doing a thing is, I'm with the African Energy Leadership at VETS, dealing with the energy, looking at the changing from coal to gas, or changing from coal to solar and wind and all of that. And we're doing statistical modeling. and with the trends that were actually happening, putting GDP, putting all things in there. And you find that using the transition matrix, if you do a transition from one state to another and putting it into mathematics, and he says that it's actually almost impossible. It can take like ages and ages. We can't just switch off and go on and actually go over into code. That's what now we are seeing now with the mixed Corp. Now that we got monies from wherever we're getting, say, no, we're going to be switching off our coal power station, we're not going to be consuming coal. I mean, really? As I remember saying that other countries are taking our coal, they're burning the coal there. And then here in South Africa say, no, we must not be able to do that. I agree that let us have a debate, my chair, on the energy, because that is going to impact on the job that we are trying to create as this committee and doing that. I'm going to pause the chair. I'm going to suggest, my chair, as I close off, we need to zoom into all these entities which are supplying, like IDC, NEF, and any other funding. They must come, we must get a thorough, detailed report. And we must check each and every person, how are they dealing with the application? Because I don't buy myself now. After I heard these stories, I've got letters here. I'm going to send them to you. After I got this and I see the shenanigans that they are doing there, especially in that NEF, it actually left a bad taste in my mouth. So they need to come here specifically to present to us how have they been assisting and funding Black entrepreneurs, again, in general, applications and all of that. A detailed report. All companies, we can decide from what period to what period, how have they been helping these people that they actually give them funding. If they are not able to break through because conditions have changed, market have changed, what are they doing about that? Thank you, my chair.
Thank you, Dr. Tswaku. Just to put this in context, most of your discussion was outside what this meeting is about, but we note it for future work of this committee. And I look forward to getting those inputs from you. The IDC and the NEF were asked to speak specifically, of course, on the projects that we visited during the oversight period. Honorable Malamacha.
Thank you, Chair. My apology, man. I'm having a serious problem with the network. Even now, if to proceed, but I hope I'm fine now. IDC, I think we must be mathematical here to say how many small businesses have you assisted, if not funded, just for specifically on this current financial year. That's how we want it to come clear in terms of figures. How many outreach, if not campaign or programs that you have embarked on in order to help the SMS to how to access the government funds for their own businesses? These two questions are influenced by the fact that the whole Mpumalanga, you come in and present only 2 businesses. Taking into account the population of Mpumalanga, taking into account the number of the small businesses in Mpumalanga, of all the declined application, what are the common issues? And how best have you advised them, if not assist them, to overcome the non-compliance that made them not to qualify your criteria so that they be assisted? IDC, how much have you spent in assisting the above, as I mentioned, and how much is still left so that you are able to channel those that you haven't assist them, then the money is there. We don't want to come and wake up on the last minute. We find that you have declined applicants, yet you still have the money and the money has to go back to Treasury. To the stakeholders, in particular those who shows the element of success, one will want to know at what point are you intending to multiply? Remember, our mandate is to create jobs, is to create as many possible industrialists. so that they can shake the current economic junction? At what point are you intending to multiply in a form of opening other branches where you are going to create more jobs? And at what time do you see yourself starting to pick up in the other small grown, if not upcoming entrepreneur, so that at the end of the day we multiply and we are able to change the status quo of the current economic status in a form of infiltrating this economy, and you'll be many there. Gigama, we congratulate you there. Of course, I want that question to come direct to you. Then NEF, Ms. Pasha, it is clear that Masinga's recycling is not making it. Of course, it's not a problem, but during the visit, it was very clear that you only woke up when we realized that we're there. And just across the street, there's another one that is dealing with the cloth. And that was doing very well there. For how long are we going to have this kind of situation? You only wake up when we are there, and yet you are coming here to tell us that, no, you are assisting the Kuas. How many of Mr. Kuas in Mpumalanga are getting the same assistance? And how many of the Mr. Kuas are there in Mpumalanga, and you are intended to really fund them? And how much do you have? And how much have you spent for now? And how much do you still have? So that at the end of the day, with similar question of saying, what program have you made to try and get, if not embark on outreach program to get people to assist them so that they apply and qualify? Chairperson, I think I'll pause there. Sorry for that long. My problem is the network. Thank you.
Okay, I just want to reiterate what I've said before, that NEF and IDC came to report on the projects on which we did oversight. It's not that they are choosing, handpicking projects to report on. We did not ask them to come and report to us on the whole of Mpumalanga or the whole of South Africa. That we can do at a later stage as this committee. Thank you very much. I wanted to give to Kuas Msiza, because he has had his hand up. I'm not sure if he's still on the platform. He had his hand up when we were speaking on the infrastructure in the industrial park. So I wanted to check whether he still wanted to make an input. And then I think Mari Grobler is from Roadgrass Investment, which is an IDC project. So let's just check whether Mr. Msiza is on the platform.
He's on the platform, Chair.
Okay. Okay, he says he's here. Are you able to speak, or shall I go to the next speaker? Okay, let's go to Ms. Grobler. Unmute yourself from Roadgrass.
Good day.
Oh, it's Mr. Okay.
Chairperson, can you hear me?
Yes, please go ahead.
Good day, Chairperson and attendees. I heard a lot of discussions today, especially a lot of projects that's got to be closing down or is not effective. Roadgrass is a different project, I believe. I'm standing in for Mr. Mabukhwane, who turned ill. And I'm just going to do a very short summary of his report that he sent in to the IDC for presentation to the DTIC. First of all, his son Tabang, who was supposed to run the new project, died, and the new Roadgrass Tabang is named after him, the new project. Construction completed in August. There was a major delay that was suffered due to Eskom not connecting the electricity. There was other delays as well, but the first batch of chickens were caught and slaughtered around about the 20th of September. And what I must actually let you know is there's job creation, not much at the moment, but as Mr. Mokoane mentioned in his report, training is a problem, especially senior managers in this industry, which is the chicken industry. 12 to 15 staff members was recruited, 7 to 9 have been worked before. So there was real job creation for new employees as well. The production report, I'm just going to give a short description of the old site and the new site. Day-old chicks placed on the old site was, I'm going to round it off, 230,000 against the 321,000 in the new site. The average days to slaughter old site, 35 days versus 33 days in the new site. The average weight, and that's a crucial point in chicken farming, 1.961 kilograms versus 1.963 kilograms. I must stress, the 1.963 kilogram is higher than the old site with less days feeding. That means money. Mortalities is still high, 7.1% in the old site and 7.6% in the new site. We're going to bring it down definitely because there was a lot of problems on the first run. So that's in short conclusion. The new site produced better results than the old site despite all challenges that we did have on site with the first batch of chickens that we raised. Chairperson,
thank you.
That's in short from my side. I hope the other people listening can see that IDC money, they do, if it's properly managed and properly trained people, it can make big changes in the industry and in the country.
Thank you very much for this report, and please pass our heartfelt condolences to the family. We met the son there on the day that we visited this project, and it is very sad to hear that he has passed on. So please pass our condolences to the family. I see, Mr. Msiza, you have your hand up, and then I'm going back to IDC and NEF for responses. Mr. Msiza, for the last time.
Thank you, Chair. Okay. I was struggling with network, sorry. Okay, yes, when we were talking about Mega, I wanted to comment about, I'm also a tenant at Mega. The biggest challenge that we have is the maintenance. The maintenance is very poor. I'm renting one of their buildings, especially when it comes to, especially these days, since last year, we have an issue with water. They install pipes, then 2 weeks later, the pipe bursts. You stay another 2 weeks or 3 weeks without water. Then they install another pipe again. They invite a local contractor. Then afterwards, again, 2 weeks again, you stay without water. But when it comes to electricity, we don't experience that much of load shedding, even when the load shedding is at the high stage. But when it's Mega, we don't have a problem with electricity unless if there is a cable depth. But water and maintenance, building maintenance in general, it's something that happens to your electricity or something you don't take forever to happen. But other than that, other than those.
Okay, your network is failing you. Mr. Msiza, your network is failing you. We can hardly hear what you're saying, but we got the gist of your input in terms of maintenance of the buildings that are rented out to tenants in the industrial park. Thank you very much. Can I hand over to IDC first and then NEF?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And thank you very much for the opportunity and the feedback received from the honorable members. And I know Honorable Frings and Honorable Chaku spoke about the just transition, the coal. But I think from an IDC perspective, Chair, is the understanding that coal will still remain very much of the, a significant portion of the energy mix. So that's why there's still some investment. But the big challenge in this particular area, and I know Mr. Kobe has given a view of the challenges relating to the demand for coal with this particular power station that had unplanned, drop in demand. And that's one of the key issues, but I think that's a conversation for another time. But I know Honorable Mabuyane asked the question around industrial capacity development. Honorable Mr. Mabuyane, it is very much still core to the IDC mandate to support industrial capacity development, and where there are entrepreneurs with businesses and plans to scale up, the IDC remains ready to evaluate, support the businesses to ensure that we're able to create and meet our expectation that the funding does yield jobs. Honorable Tsaku did speak to turnaround time, which is a consistent concern that the corporation works with and has reported back to the committee on. And ours is making sure that applicants, when they do start that journey, we're able to support them. Our focus has been to ensure that the multiple steps in the application journey, from a funding application, the screening, as they go through that, the more the applicants have got all the details required, it shortens the turnaround time. But where there's a requirement for IDC specialists to support the applicants in tightening up the application so that as you go through the funding committees, it meets the requirements, that's where you've got then an extension of that turnaround time, but that remains a target for the IDC. We're quite fortunate that the expedited systems put in place for post-unrest funding, for COVID distressed funding, allowed us to see improvement areas that ensures that we're able to shorten that turnaround time. So there is a standing commitment by the corporation to take all these learnings to ensure that the turnaround time is shortened to the benefit of the entrepreneur. The question also from Honorable Tsaku was on Cadana, if there were any offtake agreements. Yes, Honorable Tsaku, we can confirm that Cadana has offtake agreements with Astral. So there is a demand for this. They will be able to, this additional capacity that the company has generated will literally be met up, and there are agreements to ensure the sustainability of the project. The Mix Corp and Dr. Kobe understands the position that we are in, and we empathize, and we've been partners in this journey for the longest of periods. But we understand, and I know the Honorable Tsaku had asked the question around debt obligations to the IDC. But because Dr. Kobe is best placed to respond, he may provide granular detail there, but ours was the understanding that the settlement of the contract would include not only the settlement of the IDC facility, but to all other creditors affected. But I think all partners involved in this transaction appreciate and empathize not only with the challenges that are not related to the entrepreneur or the funding facilities available, but it's much more from a client demand perspective, but also there's the Transnet mix in the contribution to the exercise. But it is a regrettable one. Business failure is not something that sits comfortable with all of us. Madam Chair, lastly with Honorable Malemeja, and I know he'd asked questions on number of businesses supported. And because we had not, we will be coming back to the committee at some point, Chair, at your invitation to unpack the IDC's performance for the financial year ended 31 March. That will provide granular detail on number of businesses that have been supported, but top of mind, because we have various interventions. If you look at overall approvals last year, it was 16 billion in approvals, 7.2 billion in disbursements, 27,130 jobs created and saved by IDC funding interventions. On the post-unrest fund on its own, 90 businesses were supported, with 1.5 billion in funding. But when we do come back to the committee, we will be able to provide granular detail. The segment that Honorable Malemeja was speaking to, the small business SMME segment, I do know for a fact, and just having checked the numbers, we supported over 40,000 businesses, in the small business finance category, which are many of the clients that were top of mind. But Chair, I hope I have not missed any other questions that the honorable members have posed. I hand over back to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ramodibe. Ms. Kanyile from NEF.
Thank you, Chairperson, for the opportunity, and thank you, Chairperson, for assisting in clarifying the request that had been put to IDC and the NEF in presenting to the committee today. I think we do welcome the opportunity to come back and give a more detailed account of the work that we do and what we call at the NEF the empowerment dividends that we've been able to unearth in the last year, and also in terms of the investments made in our life to date portfolio. Chairperson, if I may respond to Dr. Twaku, who raised a number of concerns. And right off the bat, I want to state, that we have a zero tolerance policy for any fraud and corruption. So if there is any information that he has at hand, he is welcome to put it forward. We actually do have a fraud line that he can report to so that we can investigate the allegations that he's put forward, Chair. But what I want to highlight is that the NEF prides itself in actually being ethical. So we have received for 19 years running now an unqualified external audit reports, Chairperson and members of the committee. So we hope that attests to the strong governance structures and risk mitigants that NEF has built into its processes. We've also undergone an audit through National Treasury for the funds that were transferred to the NEF to assist with the post-bride funding, what we call the Economic Recovery Fund. And we had absolutely no findings when it came to that, and we had an unqualified audit opinion through that as well. But I think, Chairperson, I think through further and greater interaction, I think the members of the committee will get a better understanding of what the NEF has achieved. In terms of the type of support, and I'm going to try and summarize some of the issues that were raised in terms of how actually do we help these clients. So the NEF doesn't only provide financial assistance in terms of determining, how much is required and, how will it be paid back. But we also provide what we call non-financial support. And that is part of our mandate as the only government agency solely mandated to grow BEE through the provision of financial and non-financial support, and also the promotion of a culture of savings and investments amongst our people. So we have a pre-investment function that offers product advisory. We have a business planner tool, a financial modeler tool that actually assists in taking away some of the perceived difficulties around putting together financial models and business plans. We work with incubators because, Madam Chairperson, you will know that the NEF is a rather small organization, so we stretch ourselves as much as possible, but we are confined to the 140 plus staff that we have. But we do work with partners to make sure that we are extending the empowerment dividend. And to this end, we formed a number of relationships and have taken a number of clients through our incubation process, because some of the applications that may not be funding ready actually have the potential. They just need a little bit more of that guiding and tweaking, and we do that internally and with our partners as well. In terms of the invested portfolio, we do provide mentorship support. So we put in interventions to ensure the sustainability of these businesses. And if I may add, our funding threshold, is a minimum of 250,000 Rand up to a maximum of 75 million Rand. So Chairperson and committee, we actually find ourselves in the space of funding SMEs, and with our mandate, then we are supporting Black-owned SMEs. So the work and the numbers that I speak of is 2 Black-owned businesses with a focus on women as well. But we provide that mentorship support at the NEF's cost. We provide back office support to help these smaller entities who may not afford a finance function in-house to come together and present management accounts and the like, so that we are helping cooperatize them and corporatize them rather, and take them from being SMEs to one day being medium-sized entities and eventually large businesses. So in terms of what have we achieved, I will highlight just the current year's achievements, and with the caveat being that our work is to support Black-owned businesses, particularly SMEs. We've supported 203 businesses, and we have approved funding to the extent of 1.3 billion Rand. We've actually then paid out 1 billion Rand and 50 million 1 billion Rand and 50 million Rand to these Black-owned entities. So what I wanted to highlight, Chairperson, through you, is to date, the NEF started with seed capital of 2.4 million Rand as an allocation from Treasury. And I'm answering Honorable Male Maja's question around how much do we have, how much have we spent, and how much do we have left over. In fact, Mr. Male Maja, you'll know that the NEF hasn't been announced in any budget speech in a number of years, and we haven't had any direct allocation from Treasury. How we've been funding the businesses that we've managed to fund is through funds that have been repaid by investees and through partnerships with other government organizations, including the DTIC, which has come out strongly in the last 2 years in supporting the NEF with specific allocations of funds. So we have been able to support, businesses and approved over 12.9 billion Rand being the NEF, but we're proud to say that of these businesses, we've actually collected back 4.6 billion Rand, which has then allowed us to spin off from the original 2.5 billion plus these repayments and partnership allocations to reach almost 30 billion Rand of approvals from what began as 2.5 billion Rand allocation in the earlier parts of the NEF's operational existence. So, Chairperson, I would like to stop there. I don't know if you want me to answer specifically to the interventions that we've put in place to assist with off-takes, but we have been in conversation with our regional manager, Mr. Pasha, who is hand-holding Mr. Kwes to access, other markets through engagements with the Department of Agriculture and the like. It's an ongoing process. But overall, Chairperson, I think we would like to come back and have more time to talk about the NEF's achievements, our challenges, and perhaps through this committee, you can help us unlock some of those challenges so that we can help even more Black-owned enterprises, particularly ensuring that we also crowd in women-owned entities into the fold. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Kanyile. Yes, thank you for that response. So you do assist with not only funding, you also make sure that there is a link to the market or uptake of the product that is being produced. I think, members, this has been a robust discussion. I think it also points the committee in the direction that there is lots of work to be done out there. We have only been speaking about today for the whole morning about the oversight work that was done, a follow-up and update on the oversight work. But obviously for the whole country, we need to have this type of interrogation on all the SEZs and industrial parks and our financial funding institutions, and have a broader discussion on that. With that, I now bring the meeting to a close, but before I do that, can I just ask the committee secretary to speak to us on our next meeting of this committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chair, our next meeting will be next Tuesday, where we will have a workshop as agreed to by the Committee on Industrial Policy. That workshop will be facilitated by Professor Trigena, Professor Malakani, and Dr. Niva Magekla, as agreed to by the committee. Chair, and then on Wednesday, we'll also have a committee business engagement where we will discuss matters that members would like to raise in preparation for our programs going forward and processes around that, Chair. Thanks.
Thank you very much. And with that, I declare this meeting closed. Thank you, everyone, for your attendance and your inputs.
Long live the chair. Long live chair.
Bye, Chair.
Sharp. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chairperson.
I don't know about the long leave part.
Long live the chair. No, now we know it. We know it. Now we know it. That's why we say it.
Long live the chair.